How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And it is my absolute pleasure to get to announce Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And it is my absolute pleasure to get to announce
Near Mint Condition. Somebody's high on our own supply right now.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on a second. I think it was Tigereyes, maybe? Tigereyes, if you go to your settings, dang it, I've given away who you are now. If you go to your settings and you go to audio, you can echo the cancellation and hit that button, and it won't play the feedback. I believe it was you. But let me know when you've done that and give me the thumbs up. Yes, to my right is Tigereyes, everybody. Surprise. I'm sorry. I didn't want to give away Tigereyes' real name. But I'm going to let my co-host introduce who they are. And then we'll talk about what this is. And some of you, I saw a little bit of confusion. Like, haven't we already done this? Didn't we already vote? What's going on? Well, this is a little bit different. I'm going to let my co-host introduce themselves first. Right below me is
Taylor of Taylor Talks Comics. I'm also the Near Mint Condition.
Right below me is
Taylor of Taylor Talks. There's a delay still.
No, sorry. I think it's Tigereyes. Here, okay. I'm gonna private message you, Tigereyes, on how to where to change this. You go ahead, Taylor. Who are you?
Right. I'm also the Near Mint Condition social media guy. So if you've talked to any of the social media accounts, then you can then you probably talk to me. Also, I have my own YouTube channel. If you want to check it out. Lately, I've been reading a lot of Alejandro Jodorowsky comics, Meta Barons, and the Incal and such. So if you are interested in European comics of any kind, look forward to that content. And then,
right.
Go ahead. Okay. I didn't know if Omar was going to introduce you.
No,
to my right,
you're right.
Or left, whatever.
Hello, Minties one and all. I'm Crisis with a K, and I write and have been writing for over 24 years at crushingcrisis.com, which over time has become a home to collected guides and reading orders for the vast amount of the Marvel Universe and a lot of DC and Indie too. And this to me is the most wonderful time of the year. I have so many years written about the Tigereyes Omnibus Most Wanted poll. I have examined the data. I have talked about the results. And so like the idea that I get to be here and kick it off to all of you is the most possible exciting thing. I've spent the last week trying to figure out every possible Marvel Omnibus that has never been printed. And that is going to contribute to our conversation today. So I'm really, really excited to kick it off and unleash you all on that list.
Yes, and I'm telling Tigereyes how to change this. They're both checked off. You can put your YouTube video on mute, Tigereyes. Try that. Like if it's playing, put it on mute. And see if that works. You put your YouTube video on mute, Tigereyes. Try that. There you go.
Does he have the YouTube video open on another window?
Yeah, he's one of my many multiple accounts. let's see if that worked. Did that work? Are we still? You good, Tigereyes? Okay, everybody, it is our absolute pleasure to get to introduce. I was hoping he was going to be behind a curtain with one of those voices, but he decided to show his face, or maybe this is, a hired actor that he got. But this is Tigereyes, the man behind the poll, and we'll explain. I want him to explain what this is and what makes this different than the poll I have taken in the past for Marvel Omnibus reprints, and why this has been so popular for the last 12 years and how it all got started. Who are you, sir?
All right, I'm Tigereyes, and this really is our poll. It started on the Marvel Masterworks forum, like you said, 12 years ago. Just something I did in my spare time. Initially, when it started, we pretty much had 50 plus votes, and then we've just grown exponentially. Last year, with all of your help, we were over 600, but I think this year we're gonna destroy that number.
I think so too.
So
for sure,
I'm ready to have some fun with y'all. So let's play.
Yeah, because in years past, they've had to actually literally type in their votes and email it to Tigereyes. So this year, having the option of just clicking on it, I think we're getting a lot more votes just with the ease of how it'll be done this year.
Yeah. So,
yeah, much to my eternal shame, last year I completely forgot to send an email. And I think voting is the most important and also sexiest thing that anyone can do in a democracy. So in my abject horror, I knew I was going to be on the results stream. And in my abject horror, I was like, oh, I never sent a vote. So that's hopefully going to be simplified for a lot of people like me who have attention deficit and will forget that you actually physically email a human being to cast your vote on the poll.
This one will be a lot easier, a lot automated. And I know last year, God bless you, when I don't think you were, because I made a video, I'm like, here's how you can vote, and email this guy. And I don't think you were ready, your brain and soul were ready for the amount of people that really want Omnis made. Like, you started this 12 years ago as something fun, right? Like, hey, I want to see what everybody else would like to see. And we've had, holy moly, so many of those books get made over the years. Over the last decade alone, or the last 5 years alone, we've gotten so many of those books made.
Yeah.
And yet people still find things to send you, like, hey, I want this made. Oh, I would love to see this collected.
I pulled the original poll results the other day. There's only 4 left from the original poll that have not been made. So we've come a long way.
What are those for?
70s Ghost Rider and the 70s Daredevil. I forgot the other 2 off the top of my head.
It's okay. No
I'll
pressure.
Man, Anna Cinti's Daredevil's almost becoming like the Volume 16 Spider-Man Epic Collection.
It's definitely one of those that a lot of people have wanted. I do this. I have been doing this on my channel every year. I do my most wanted Marvel Omnis, my most wanted X-Men Omnis, my most wanted Batman, and my most wanted DC Omnis. And I think it's really interesting how people have emailed you over the years and how they've mapped their things. And some people don't map. But the reason we decided to do this as a poll this year and get James involved, and James is the guy behind the scenes for the Marvel Most Wanted Omnibus reprint poll and the Marvel Most Wanted Epic reprint poll. We got him involved because we just want to make it easier for people that don't know much about these books, don't know how mapping works, don't know, what's been made, what hasn't been made, because it's every day that I get some kind of comment that's, oh, is this been collected? This is something from my youth, somebody new to this hobby. And it's just makes it so much easier. Now, I say that, so I need to give some shout outs. I got to give a shout out to, of course, Tigereyes for doing this, and God bless him for doing this for years. And last year, especially, when I was like, hey, is that poll ready? And you were like, I have to read so many emails. It's going to be a while. And James, of course, of putting it together and asking for help through Reddit. So a lot of the people at Reddit, thank you all for sending some of your suggestions to him. A lot of people are on our Patreon. I think he made it to a couple of groups on Facebook. You all had some great suggestions. But the hard part about that for James was curating the list, because everybody wants something different. And on top of that, sometimes people are just putting in names that they're like, oh, I want this. I want the classic Captain America. And then sometimes it would be by author or by creator. So this is where we came in on Friday night. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. So on Friday night, Peter, myself, and Dom took that list that James had and trimmed it down so Taylor can get ready for the slideshow. So we burnt the midnight oil that day. I think I got like 4 hours of sleep that night. Trying to curate the list, and it was a lot of work, but we wanted to make it easier and fun for people, and easier by curating the list where, oh, that is the same book, or that's already been collected over here, so we can get rid of this, because we had over 900 plus books to look at, and we have trimmed it down quite a lot.
I think over 623 or something. Is that right, Peter?
I think that's the final number. I think we added that one secret book last night. We might be at 624. How we didn't wind up at 616 is a failure of branding, and I blame us all.
We could have shaved some off.
But
the max every year. You can only have 616.
To Omar's point, I want to point out that, because this started primarily in the Marvel Masterworks board, which are some people who really know their mapping, because they were really obsessed with like how each Masterworks and then later how each epic was going to get released. This was almost, and Tigereyes agree or disagree, it started out kind of as a mapping game for a lot of people, because they wanted to see what they could make into like a sellable omnibus sized book. I remember that from the early years, because I've been around, I think, since like the second one. Do you remember when it was more like that?
Absolutely.
People would be sending you like, I know I called it the mutant or the Inferno Prelude, but here's what I mean exactly, and that their Inferno Prelude would be like a totally different book than somebody else's Inferno Prelude.
Backup Marvel Comics present stories. Lots of little things here and there.
Yeah, which we love, and you know that we do on this channel with Matt My Ex. But I think that this has been an exercise of taking it more towards like branding it in a way that lets everybody know what they might want. One that I saw in the chat, I'm not endorsing it because we do not influence the vote, but what do you call the omnibus that comes right before Avengers: The Crossing? What do you call it? It's after the Gatherers. It's before the Crossing.
Yeah, we debated on that one.
I mean, and we're all in the chat like, what is it called? Because not that we want to name it and tell Marvel what to name it. We want to name it a thing that lets the people who want that really badly, including many of you in the chat, know what to vote for. So this was really, like Omar said, it was a curation challenge, and we want everybody to see their favorite character and everybody to see their favorite book. So it wasn't about us saying like, nah, like, you know, cats knocking something off a table. That one's not good. No, there's plenty of books we don't think are good on the poll, but we put them on the poll because it's somebody's favorite. And so that was our job to curate the poll.
I think one of the most things I'm excited about this is now the resource that this is going to be, just to have this list that's like culled down by some of the smartest people in these mapping games like Peter and Omar, like having to be able to like just have this resource of like what has Marvel not made and to be able to go to it. And I think the fact that we've culled it, or I guess, sorry, I should all credit to Dom and Peter and Omar for culling it down to 623. I feel like we've added like as much legitimacy to what Tigereyes started, to where like this is becoming a legitimate poll. And we have already on record that Marvel has listened to the reprint poll for the Epic collections and the Omnibus reprint poll. There's no guarantee. We're not saying Marvel's going to listen to this. They could just, you know, toss us an email when Omar sends it. We don't know. But the fact that we've added legitimacy to it, and the fact that the amount of voters going to vote on it is going to increase, it might influence Marvel to be like, hey, there's a lot of people wanting these similar things. I don't know. So I'm really excited by how legitimate we've made this from what the foundation that Tigereyes started.
I think you know, I have doing this by myself, the videos and editing and stuff. I've talked often about how sometimes I miss like having coworkers and complaining to coworkers about how bad something was, or the camera broke, or the mic, or I forgot, which happened on Friday too. On top of that, my mic wasn't working. That night that we stayed up, while it was miserable and in a fun way, it reminded me of it was the closest to having coworkers again. I will say that, because we were together working on it, complaining about things, and then eventually, you know, writing little funny notes like, no, we're not adding this because it's only 4 issues. Why would you like, or like, how are we going to add this? This is a brand new book. It has issue number 1 hasn't even come out. We can't ask for an omnibus of this. We don't know how many issues it's going to be.
People are hyped, man. They see that first issue and they're like, schedule the omnibus.
And then eventually, I could tell when we got tired, we stopped writing little funny notes like, I'm done. I'm just going to remove this because it doesn't make any sense. Like, not that we know the best, but I think that night I appreciated just how much it goes into this that I didn't think about. Like when, I don't know how many people Marvel has in the group when it comes to lists like this or curating, mapping and stuff like this. But oh my gosh, it was just such a nightmare. But I'm glad we did it, because now we have a backbone to build on. And every year it'll be so much easier. So a big thank you to Dom, big thank you to Peter, big thank you to James, big thank you to Taylor, and of course the man that started it all, Tigereyes, for the people. All right, we're gonna do a slideshow presentation, and we're gonna kick this live. So I'll tell you all when to refresh this video so you can start voting, because I love looking at when you all start voting live. And I am gonna send the top 20 that get voted on to Marvel Comics. I'll talk about a little more when it ends and how to vote. We'll explain all that. I'll make a short on how to vote so everybody can share it, and let's just have some fun. All right, let's present. Thank you, Taylor, of course, for putting this slideshow together.
Of course.
I know when he looked at the list, he was like, wait, am I doing every... And we were like, no, don't kill yourself.
Yes, we need... Taylor, we need a slide for every book. You're on that, right?
Oh, my gosh.
624.
That was what Dom was talking to Omar about at first. And then Omar was like, well, Dom, what if we had 800 of these? And he's like, oh, never mind.
I think we underestimated. So you get 10 votes like you do every year. We're never going to take that away. Never, ever going to take that away. That's something that Tigereyes started, and that's what we're going to keep doing. All right. We're going to kick off the slideshow with, hopefully, we group these things together and retitle them. That was the other thing we had to do, was retitle a lot of these. And we do have editing rights. So if you do see something that, hey, this would be better grouped with the X-Men, maybe suggest it. All right. Let's go ahead. You threw Alf in the cover there. Thank you. I appreciate that. The anthologies. So these are a series of anthologies. I'm going to let Taylor talk a little bit about the anthologies. What are we looking at here?
So Marvel has a rich history of accumulating a lot of things like this together. These would just be like a compilation of them in the omnibus. But so Marvel Comics Presents is one that would be really cool. But that was really like a tryout anthology back in the day. Where they had like some up and coming cartoonists that were trying to get their hands in there. They let them do that. Each issue had like 3 or 4 shorter stories in it, I believe. This is also volume 2. I think Peter informed me that's where Weapon X is serialized. So that's a really cool one. But then same thing with some of these other ones. The Marvel graphic novel, that's where you'll see like God Loves Man Kills, the graphic novel, and then also like the Death of Captain Marvel's in there, and
that's the very first one.
The debut
that would be in your first book right there.
The debut of the New Mutants is in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be like a compilation of all the graphic novels, because back in the day, before like collected editions was a big thing, Marvel would come out with these like fancy square bound graphic novels to sell. And then we got Black, White, and Blood. Everybody's aware of that. That's like a newer anthology series, right?
Before you go any further, by the way, to clarify, I don't think we mentioned this just because there's so much information. This isn't a database that Marvel has. This is something we have put together. So whatever the top 20 the top 20 omnis that are voted on, I'll be sending that list to Marvel, and they can do whatever they want to with that information. Print it or sleep on it, or maybe one day.
Paper shredder, no one knows.
This has always been something for fun, to see what people want, what the majority want. So it is up to you to vote. And this was something that you all actually suggested too. So we just kind of curated it to make it a little bit easier.
The cool thing about
there's a really interesting thing there about causation versus correlation. Like, as Tigereyes has mentioned from the first poll, we've got all but 4 books, and many times the top 20 winds up getting entirely printed within the next 24 months. I used to actually do the data for that on Crushing Crisis back in the day. And so is it like, do they have their finger on the pulse? Are they listening to us? Or do we have our fingers on the pulse and we actually are really paying attention to the kind of things that Marvel will print? No one knows. So we don't know if this is a prediction or a confirmation, but we do know that it aligns pretty closely. And so it's fun, right? We're doing it primarily because it's fun, not because books are guaranteed to be printed. No one said that. That's not a thing.
So the cool thing about this slide is like a lot of this stuff has usually appeared in like packed into other omnibuses. So you'll see like a couple of the short stories from Marvel Comics Presents in some omnibuses. You'll see some of the Black, White, and Blood. Some of those have been packed into some omnibuses, but they've never been collected in like their whole issues. So I think the idea of what would be some of these would be like the entire issues of Marvel Comics Presents, all in a line, all of the graphic novels together, that kind of thing.
And part of what makes this slide possible, because we debated a lot about this category, is things like seeing the Marvel Age Volume 1 that we got last year, things like seeing them continue the official history of the Marvel Universe Omnibus line, which we've seen over the years, and the Index line, right? So now we know they're willing to do that. That's what makes this year's voting, I think, different than previous year's votings. Previous years, we could kind of only go on what Marvel could do, and it was really hard to see a book with a really exciting or different mapping rise high because we had no evidence Marvel would do it. We've now seen Marvel do things like the Black Panther early years omnibus that crosses tons of early appearances in several different series, right? We've seen the Morbius omnibus, which covers tons of appearances in different series. So we know that that's a model they'll use now. The same for them doing Marvel Age. We now know that they are willing to put these things all into one book and collect them in ways that we never thought possible before. So now we get to have a slide like this. I see in the chat, Omar, some people are saying Marvel Rarities, the 60s. What's that?
Let me explain that one. So Marvel Rarities are books that wouldn't fit anywhere else. So Marvel in the past has done a collection of Marvel Masterworks, and they called it Marvel Rarities. But they have stories from like Marvel superheroes. They have stories from Tales of Suspense. They have stories from, I think, one of Silver Surfer, if I'm not mistaken.
I think there's 3 volumes of that in the Masterworks, if I remember. Looks like Peter's trying to find them.
I've got it.
But I don't know if they just kept it to specifically the 60s. So the idea behind, I assume, this person's was putting the Masterworks together, and it's stories about like Doctor Doom. It's stories about the Watcher. A lot of the classic Stan Lee, Jack Kirby stuff is in here. At least that's the way that we've pictured it, and that's why they wanted to call it Marvel Rarities the 60s or the early years. So I went with Marvel Rarities the 60s. So we renamed a few of these. And people do like anthologies, right? Like not every book is for everybody, for sure. We have said that so many times on the channel, but that's what Marvel Rarities is. Marvel Swimsuit speaks for itself. That would be a multiple volume set with different covers. It would be amazing, and I'm all here for that. And oh my gosh, I'd have to buy 2 copies of each so I could pull out the Psylocke posters. Now I'm revealing way too much about myself. But yes, this is kind of what the anthologies, or I'm sorry, the first round of anthologies would be.
And I'll make one more comment on this one for Marvel Comics Present 1 and 2. Taylor already teased this. Sometimes there's long series, and sometimes those of you out there who are mapping experts know exactly how it would break down, and you could tell us what all 10 volumes would be. We generally didn't go that deep into a whole series that has never been collected before, but if there was an obvious break point, we put it on. So that Marvel Comics Presents 1 and 2, as Taylor says, that kind of butts right up against the Weapon X storyline. So that was an easy way to think about a break for 2, and if people are really excited, you could vote for both or just vote for the second one. For Marvel Fanfare, that's all of Marvel Fanfare. So times that we could easily knock out a whole series and just put 2 volumes from that series on the poll, we did. But if there's a series that is just beginning that would take 5, 6, 7 volumes on it, we didn't necessarily map every volume. You'll see that on the Ghost Rider slide. We gave you 1 or 2, but we didn't map it all the way through the end.
Here we go. I propose Marvel Rarities. This was Matt. It's essentially all the 60s material that would fit in its own omnis. There's enough of our 60s book and can go into the 70s. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was also the hard part, right? It's not like we had access to people, and some people would just throw words out there and write omnibus, and we were trying to figure that out too. So this was really difficult. So I'm glad that you were in the chat, Mike. Was it?
Yeah, it's really cool.
Matt. All right,
roll on.
Moving on to the next slide, the Atlas era. This is the early years. Tigereyes, tell me about this era. Not that you are the oldest one here, but you are from the Marvel Masterworks, and they love them some Atlas. What is the Atlas era for the people that don't know?
I don't even think I can answer that. That's the era prior to modern Marvel, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Silver Age. Okay. I'm not that old, guys.
Do we take this?
So
ask me about the Marvel swimsuit, not about Marvel Atlas. You
one important note about this era, though, is that Fantagraphics, Marvel has farmed out to Fantagraphics now to currently do Atlas era comics. Not saying that this won't happen at Marvel ever again, or you shouldn't vote on this. None of that. Just important to know that it is being printed. Some of this material is being printed right now through Fantagraphics. But it is, as Tigereyes said, it is what we know as the Marvel Silver Age, like with Fantastic Four #1, 1961. Before that, they were known as Atlas Comics. That's like the 50s era. So that's where a lot of this comes from.
Peter, hold that up, because that's one of the Atlas books.
So this one actually is only a 1 volume, so this would be mapped into another volume. But the thing about Atlas to think about is DC kicks off the Silver Age in 1956 with the Showcase #4, which is the introduction of Barry Allen as Flash. Right? No, right. Barry comes first, then Wally.
Yeah.
And so Marvel was still in this intermediate period. They had stopped being Timely Comics, and they were called Atlas Comics. So that actually, some of them start as early as 1949, but that's not officially Atlas. But it's what Marvel calls the era that kind of immediately precedes their superheroes era. There's no real superheroes in it other than Cap, who technically is the second Captain America in this period, and Namor. But there's a lot of really cool comics. I have so many different ones, but there's war comics. There's kind of Westerns, horror comics. This is where a lot of the anthologies that turned into hero comics began. So Tales of Suspense, Journey into Mystery, they all launched in this period, and they launched originally as just anthology comics about suspense, about mystery. So it's a really cool period, and it would be amazing to see Marvel restore more of them. And these masterworks, they're scant, and they've never been recollected into like complete collections or anything. So this would really be our chance to get them in books to put on our shelves. Now, for the ones that have volumes 1 and 2, like Journey in the Mystery, Tales of Suspense, Tales to Astonish, that actually would cover pretty much everything from this era. And then if you have ever seen those books that are called like Masters of Suspense by Kirby and Lee or something like that, Omar, there's 2 volumes.
There's 2 of
they
those.
actually pick up from the very end of this Atlas era and take it Taylor's got it, and takes it right to prior to the superhero era. So if these all got printed, we would then have a perfect continual set of all of the stories from all of those anthologies.
The Masters of Suspense were just Ditko and Lee.
Just the Ditko and Lee stories.
Yeah.
Right.
And some of those have been collected also in the
Monster
Kirby
ones were in the Monster
Yeah.
Bus.
The one that, so here, let me hold that
These
one
were
right
Jack
there
Kirby stories.
by Jack Kirby. Mhm.
And these were Ditko.
Yeah. But these would collect them fully. Anthologies are very tricky, right? But like I said, it's not for everybody, and different people want different things.
Yeah.
So that's why we added them, because you all wanted them. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, good. The Avengers. Holy moly, did we have a okay, I will say it was fun to designate who got what. And I love that Peter was taking the helm with that, because I came in late. I was doing an AMA on my Patreon, and Peter's like, okay, I'm in. You need to do Iron Man, and I can't remember what else. And I'm like, but I want to do X-Men. And he was like, I've already done X-Men. Okay.
Of course, you two would be fighting over X-Men.
So we also
got
fought
Avengers.
over Marvel 2099. I was like,
We
"Come
did.
on,
'Cause I
Omar."
love that stuff. Okay. So,
There are 2 slides for this one, just to warn you guys.
yeah, this one had a lot, because we put everything together for Avengers that we possibly could without going too crazy with the solo stories. But you have what we thought, this is what people wanted. So people put Avengers by Fabian ECSS. So we were trying to figure out that era, because Fabian came and went, was like he was almost like a fill-in writer at first right before the leather jacket years. And then what Peter did is he decided to do Roger Stern. And what he so smartly did was that would eventually become Avengers Volume 8 Omnibus, or we could have them vote for the same book and just call it a Roger Stern Omnibus Volume 1, whatever Marvel decides to do, right? Because it's going to be a while before we get to Roger Stern Avengers in omnibus format if they follow the chronological order releases.
Which is a great choice, because then we won't have split votes between people voting for Volume 8 or Roger Stern.
Well, that's the other thing we did. We got rid of the duplicates, so people wouldn't waste a vote. We really simplified this as easy as possible, and again, I think I'm understating just how much work we put into this between, this small group of people. Okay, so Avengers Academy is also in here. Avengers World is in here, which is the companion. Peter was kind enough to add years. I think for some of mine, I added some. I didn't do years. I think I added creators, so people kind of got an idea of what modern era I'm talking about. Avengers Academy, Avengers Arena, and Undercover. That was this, like, there were things that Peter and I think alike, so I know I would have done the exact same thing. So he didn't need to ask me, do you think we should? That's a hell yes. You go ahead and add Undercover with Arena, because it's practically the same story. And then Avengers Assemble, of course, the Bendis and the Conic era, and then Avengers Disassembled, including the solo tie-ins that was going on, like Captain American Falcon and Thor, because some people just want that event. And for the second part, I'm going to let Peter talk a little bit about this.
Sure, and just one on the previous slide, we don't have to go back, but Nicieza, if you aren't aware, kind of runs right up to Galactic Storm. So if we had that, we would have actually like a pretty good continuous amount of Avengers. If we got an Nicieza Omnibus and then a Galactic Storm, we have the Gatherers, then there would be a gap. So let me just quickly run down what some of these are if you're not familiar. Avengers Solo and Avengers Spotlight is actually the book that we've now seen collected in the Hawkeye epics, but it was actually Hawkeye as a lead story in the issue and Avengers backup. So there is a chance that it could be collected as Avengers if you prefer. I can only think of 3 times that we did that, where we kind of have material largely in one book or largely in another book, and it's up to you how you would want the book. Everything else is very unduplicated. So a lot of these are self-explanatory. We all know Dark Avengers. We all know Force Works. Mighty Avengers by Al Ewing, which was during the Marvel Now period. I'm trying to think if there's anything here that really bears an explanation. There's that Gatherers Aftermath / Crossing Prelude book that I promised to you earlier. But otherwise, I think this slide is pretty straightforward, and it has a lot of the newer runs of Avengers. And with Avengers, everything 2000 forward that's been like a main flagshipy title is represented in one of these books. There's a couple of side titles that we didn't explicitly get, such as Avengers AI, which if you really feel strongly about, certainly let us know. But we made sure that every major issue of a flagship book was covered in the poll.
I think what's cool about... Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna add one more thing. The other really cool thing we did, or at least this is my kind of cool, was splitting the books, because at one point somebody wrote all of Avengers, Al Ewing. So we were like, okay, do they mean just the Avengers series, or do they mean Ultimates? Because there were 3 different votes, or 3 different ways that Ultimates by Al Ewing was worded. So we had to like make decisions like that. Okay, let's split up Mighty Avengers. That's big enough for an Al Ewing omnibus. And if you put Al Ewing's US Avengers and New Avengers together, that's a big enough omnibus. And then of course you separate the Ultimates. So we did make decisions like that, trying to make it easier. So I'm sorry if you were the person that said all of Avengers in one book by Al Ewing. That would have been a huge book, and I don't think that would have. That's too much. Go ahead, Taylor.
Well, I was actually going to talk about the Al Ewing books. The cool thing about putting the creator names on here and stuff is that we might have some newer readers that, like, Al Ewing's a very popular writer right now in Marvel. Some new readers are like, I want to read everything like Al Ewing's ever written at Marvel. Well, now that we have these on here, good way to vote for them is like, oh, I want everything from Al Ewing or whatever. Like things like that. Like I like that the creator names are on here to help people, guide people that way.
And we put things that I haven't announced yet, you know, no spoilers, but like New Avengers by Brian Michael Bendis, Volume 2. I'm sure that will come out, but you can still vote for it and show just how interested you are on the title. So that no omnibus left behind. That was the project. Black Panther. So these are pretty easy because we've had Black Panther. They've done the early years. That was another one that I think we had to make decisions on. Like, okay, well, what are we going to call this era, or what are they going to do? Because they could technically call it the early years Volume 2, but we're looking at the Don McGregor and then the return of Jack Kirby, and then following the Don McGregor stuff that leads directly into the Christopher Priest era. There's also the Hudlin era, but you put in the Jason Aaron stuff in there. John Reed, I think that was that was one that we kept going back and forth on. Eve Ewing's run wasn't big enough, but people wanted that, so we were like, well, let's put it together with John Ridley. It could be a modern omnibus, and I don't know. But the Hudlin and List, that one was a very good addition, I thought, because that has all the big storylines in there too. And this is during the...
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say early years Volume 2. It really frustrated me that Marvel took the Volume 1 off of that first one, because this is such an odd era of Black Panther, because the Kirby era, Jack Kirby, when he came back, really kind of like reset, like not reset everything, but he kind of just like forgot anything McGregor did and just like, I'm going to tell my own stories with the 12 issues he did. So if you have like the Epic collections, which don't exactly map up with the omnibuses, because the early years Black Panther omnibus collected some Avengers issues that the Epics didn't, but there was like 2 Epic collections, Volume 2 and 3, that would have made a perfect omnibus Volume 2 for the early years, even though it's like the continuation of McGregor's run and then Kirby's run. They're really odd runs to match together because they don't really.
Yeah, Kirby is kind of like the peanut butter and jelly to this McGregor sandwich. Well, that sounds really weird. But McGregor comes back later on to finish out that story, while Kirby comes in and says, I'm not reading anybody's Black Panther.
Right.
I created the character. I'm going to draw him.
But there's not enough material in just McGregor's run or just Kirby's run to make their own omnibus. So it's really like you have to pack them in here to make a Volume 2.
Yeah, so calling it the early years,
the first one. So it's like, what do you do? I don't know.
Yeah. Calling it the early years Volume 2 just makes the most sense. That way people also know what they're voting for, right? They don't have to go and Google. Black Widow.
A lot of these, the point is it's a title of convenience.
Yeah,
we didn't call it that to confuse you or mislead you or kind of lead you in a certain way. We called it that because probably everybody knows what we mean.
Right.
Thank you. Oh, let me get the super chat. Silhouetted Armor Animator. Thank you so much for the super chat. The Nam comic is going to be difficult to reprint due to the problematic elements in it. Well, I don't know. I have no idea what they choose to reprint. But if it makes it in the top 20, this is where, I'm going to send it if that's what you all want. There's some great stories in there.
If there's enough demand for it,
But I mean, if you look at any comics, like in if you hyper focus on things happening in comic books, you can pick most comics are going to have problems, from that time. Black Widow, this one was another one that was really easy because they've done so much. So we thought Black Widow Marvel Knights, the Max era together, Black Widow by Nathan Edmondson, Black Widow by Mark Waid, and then Black Widow by Kelly Thompson.
But here's the thing. On the poll, this is just one line. Because we've seen Marvel with characters that have these shorter, and there's no Marjorie Liu on this list for this reason, because we included it. We've seen Marvel with characters with shorter runs now finally get into the practice of just putting them all into one book without having to get an author name on it for consistency. So when you vote on the actual poll, you're not going to see these four. You're going to just see Black Widow, Modern Omnibus, Volume 1. Because Omar and I, after going back and forth for like 30 minutes, realized that's probably what this would lead to.
Yeah, that's hold on a second. I'm just double checking.
I'm on the live poll right now. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I called it. Black Widow Modern Omnibus. We were
that could be an error with the guy that made the slideshow then.
That's okay. That's strike one.
No, I think it's a good point to talk about. Like for modern books with multiple short runs by multiple authors, we got less granular on the poll because that would just split the vote. And then 100 Black Widow fans or bar on 100 different accounts could vote for so many different Black Widow books and none of them would make it. So if a character really would do better if everybody could focus their votes into one early years omnibus or one modern era omnibus, we styled it that way.
So that's what it's named on the poll. It's just Black Widow Modern Omnibus. Captain America. Who's your favorite character, Tigereyes?
Ever?
Yeah, who's your favorite character?
Storm.
Thor. Okay, I'm gonna let you talk about Thor.
No, I said Storm.
Storm.
Oh,
a man of taste.
He's a man of taste, Omar.
Yes. Okay. Do you want to talk about Captain America though?
Sure, I'll go for it.
Okay, Captain America. When you 12 years doing this. For the last 11 years, how many times has Captain America by Mark Gruenwald showed up on your list?
Every year, it's probably, if not on the list, it's just missed it. And I was going to mention earlier about Roger Stern. That was one of the other ones that was on the original list that hasn't been made yet. But yeah, Golden Age Volume 3. That's just a continuation of 1 and 2. Marvel Knights is Cassidy.
Yeah, it's that era with Cassidy, and then I think it goes all the way to the Disassemble era with Robert Kirkman, I think, was on the book at that time.
Yep. Captain America by Black Widow, Mark Waid, solid run. J.M. DeMatteis, John Byrne. These are all pretty much by author. Grenwald, Volume 2. Volume 5 right after Kirby's second run, I would assume. Or run.
Yeah, which would be volume. They've remapped it or renamed it to Volume 4. By the way, whoever came up, I think it was one of the people that suggested it. I love that title, Captain America: Truth and Liberty. So I kept it. I was like, that's a good title. And that's the Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing run on Captain America.
Also fit in, the reason it's called Truth and Liberty is it would also fit in the run with Sam Wilson at that same time, because one of them was Sentinel of Liberty and the other one was Symbol of Truth. Yeah, so they're kind of paired and they would both fit into one omnibus. So I would love to read that.
So that was a really good naming. The Captain America by James DeMatteis and John Byrne, those were two that I kept going back. Should I add Mike Zeck? Should I add Roger Stern? Or call it War Remembrance? But I kind of went with the names that I think would probably carry the book a little more, like Captain America by John Byrne. That it was one of these things that I kept going back and forth to do. So, that was you, Brandon? Dude, I love that name. Truth and Liberty. Love it. Good choice.
As a resident old soul that's always talking about Golden Age and Silver Age comics, I just want to make a note that Golden Age Volume 3, that was like, that's one back when Captain America was more of an anthology series. So again, like what we were talking about earlier with like the anthologies of like Journey to Mystery and whatnot, those collect the entirety of the issues. So volumes 1 and 2, there's only like 10 to 12 issues per book, but it's because the issues were like longer. So this will just be Volume 3. And I think in this era, Captain America was more of like almost like a horror host of Marvel, where they're like kind of guiding away from superheroes before they got back into it.
Captain America by John Byrne is Dawn's Early Light. Yeah, it wasn't a long run, but I also didn't want to take it off the list because this is something somebody wanted, and I figured a lot of people would want it. So absolutely, it belongs on here. It was. I think it's been released as Dawn's Early Light, War and Remembrance, and the Epic Collection. Is it Dawn's Early Light, the Epic Collection? Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called. Yeah.
It was a short run, but I mean, That one right there, the one that Peter has. That's not an omnibus, Peter.
Burn.
Peter's he's converted to Epic Collections, he said.
Has he though?
I have every one.
He has every Epic Collection.
You are a monster.
Except for Star Wars, because I'm not a monster like Curtis is.
Like Curtis is. Wouldn't Cap by Grunwald be like 4 to 6 omnis? 4 omnis is what I'm thinking it's going to be.
It's 4. It's going to be 4.
After all it's said and done. Moving on to Captain Marvel. So this was another one that was really easy. You know, you finish out Kelly Thompson. Wait, Kelly Thompson?
Oh, wait, that shouldn't be on. Oh, dang it. That's strike 2. That shouldn't be on there either.
And then is not on the poll. I'm proofing the poll as we go.
Okay, thank you for doing that, Peter.
So actually, a lot of these got covered in the last year. That's why we had them in the notes, because people were suggesting them before some of the things recently got announced. With Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel, we're really down to just 2 big chunks that could get put into Omnibus. One is the Captain Carol Danvers, the Miss Marvel years, which is the Brian Reed series that ran from 2005 to 2010. I think previously we would have thought it had to be 2 volumes, but now that we've seen things like the Dazzler Omnibus, it really could maybe be 1. It's about 54 issues, or maybe they split it in 2, but you'll see that on the poll. And then there's that period that's after Kelly Sue DeConnick and before Kelly Thompson, which is more than just Margaret Stoll. So we renamed it. We just called it Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, and put the years 2016 to 2018. That covers, I think, Tara Butters wrote it at one point. Margaret Stoll wrote it for a while. Christos Gage and his wife, whose name escapes me at the moment, wrote it for a while. But it's a perfectly omnibus-sized chunk, which would fit in between your Kelly Sue DeConnick omnibus and your first Kelly Thompson omnibus. And of course, Kelly Thompson Volume 2 already announced by Omar as scheduled, so we don't have to vote for it. So anything that you've seen announced on this channel is not in the poll because we already know it's solicited.
So I think Peter just may have answered your question. Why isn't Brian Reed's Miss Marvel series on here? Or is that further down the slideshow? Peter, did you talk about Miss Marvel?
On the official poll. So we did a little bit more winnowing after the version of stuff that went onto the slides. And in terms of Carol, it made sense to put a Brian Reed one on the list.
Wasn't that Genesville both of the Peter David series in that 1 volume? Or no?
It is. Okay. They're both in that 1 volume. So that's not on the final list.
Okay.
Can we make this list shorter by removing all the creator centrics? Complete runs for the win. Well, did you see how many people were excited about Captain America by John Byrne?
And there's 2 slides for creator centric, so it's just fitting.
Woo! People went crazy.
Bill Sienkiewicz, that'd be a great one.
So this is pretty much any book these folks worked on. If you're a fan of Bill Everett, if you're a fan of Azad Ribbage, if you're a fan of George Perez, this is the comics they worked on, whether they drew or wrote them.
I have to say, some of these are some of the Marvel Universe buy books I think are underrated because people I think just dismiss them because they're not complete runs. But these aren't just like issues. Like they'll if they did a Bill Sienkiewicz one, for instance, they'll collect every cover Bill Sienkiewicz ever did for Marvel in that omnibus. So every piece of artwork, every pinup, every issue, everything they can from Bill Sienkiewicz will be collected in there. So it's really a really cool collections. Some of these, like the Marvel Universe by Frank Miller, for instance, if you have both Daredevil ones by Frank Miller, that one collects everything else he ever did at Marvel, with the exception of John Carter. You know, they couldn't put that one issue in there, but everything else that he did. So with all 3 of those omnibuses, you have everything Frank Miller ever did with Marvel. So some of these are pretty cool and complete collections. And
some of these
some
of these votes are really interesting. Like things that would out Joe Manili, that would be awesome.
Yes. Joe Manili was a golden age artist that sadly died at a young age before the Silver Age. So he's like one of the great what ifs. Like, what would the Marvel Silver Age have been like if Joe Manili lasted past, I think he died at like 33. But Stanley is often cited that he was his favorite artist he ever liked working with. And that's before Stan really started working with Kirby. So, but Fantagraphics just recently put out a Joe Manili collection. Just a little cheap plug there.
So much double dipping. I would do it. It depends on who your favorite creators are, right?
And again,
so
Crossgen in the chat before we get into Crossgen is our philosophy here is if there was a creator omnibus that was clearly a volume, we tried to do the AKA, which you saw on Roger Stern, right? Because why split votes? We don't want you to vote for Avengers 8 or whatever it is and Roger Stern. But if the creator really had their own standalone run, or if the creator had, like Taylor said, so many odds and ends, that's when we creatorized it. So it was all in the name of kind of streamlining. And we really did try to get as many Marvel comics onto the list that have ever been published. So if it helped us do that, there was a creator book for that.
John, do you know how late we were up? Don't you start your BS with me.
Oh,
you didn't vote for it. You didn't write it in. You didn't your job.
Omar's all-time favorite artist, and he just forgot about him.
I was busy. I didn't even vote this year. I was busy like curating this list. Sorry.
Well, and the other thing
Crossgen.
is with Mark Silvestri, it's so much contained to a specific number of books that have already been omnibused that we did discard a number of those. Like if it was Marvel Omnibus by Jim Lee, wouldn't that just be like the X-Men issues, his Punisher issues, and then like 5 issues of Alpha Flight? So sometimes when things were really well covered in other omnibuses, we did not put a creator version.
The Marvel Universe ones are really good for the artists that kind of hopped around a little bit, didn't really just have like one long run on something.
Yeah. So Crossgen is my cup of tea, but Peter decided to handle it because he's written so many guides to it.
No, never. I learned all about it just for you all because I love you that much.
I was going to say,
you know, think about the last show. Omar had to explain what a sigil was to me, or what was
on the last show.
I forget about that.
It was a rare moment where Peter was like, kind of like didn't know anything. Like I've never seen Peter in a moment where he's like, I don't know anything about this, but Omar, tell me about this.
But you will not catch me in that moment twice in a row. Never, my friends. So I went through.
Not anymore, because now you've taught yourself all about it. You're like a machine. You just like, I don't know something about this. I'm going to learn all about it.
I was the master of the imprints for this. So anytime there was an imprint, I went and scoured the internet for every issue we could slam into an imprint omnibus. Omar, talk about Crossgen.
And it is Crux, not Cruz. Unless it's Roger Cruz. I'll have Peter double check.
I will correct it on the actual poll.
That was my mistake.
So Crossgen was one of my favorite publishers at that time. I thought they were doing some amazing things and in a not connected but yet connected universe, but you didn't need to read every single series. My favorite one was Scion because I'm a big Ron Mars fan and I'm a big Jim Chung fan. Sojourn actually has some not one of my favorite artists, but I really love the artwork in Sojourn. It's Greg Land for the most part. And
you heard it. Omar loves Greg Land.
That's not.
But
Do not say
that's one of Peter's favorite artists, right?
I really like the art in that. It's so good, and it was before everybody was calling him out for whatever. Anyway, I'm not here for that. It was a good book. Negation and Meridian are probably the two that were the closest to how this universe fits together. And then a lot of it unfortunately got canceled, so we went with runs. Like I really like the companion here, including all of the Crossgen that lasted just a little while. And then Way of the Rat that had Jeff Johnson was drawing that, if I'm not mistaken, from his Wonder Man era. Path is excellent. That's got some Liam Sharp artwork. If you were a fan of the Conan stuff, First is great. So I would love to see more of this stuff. And Ruse, of course, Barry Windsor Smith. Listen, Greg Land didn't start out as a monster. None of us do. It's interesting about Greg Land. I got to meet him many, many years ago when I was a teenager. He was working at Caliber Press. And I had a good friend of mine who his sister was dating the guy that ran Caliber Press. So I got to meet like David Mack and those because they weren't that far from us. And it was really cool, me as a teenager trying to like say, one day I want to make it into comics and getting to meet comic book writers and artists. Daredevil and Deadpool. Okay, Daredevil. So Innocenti again. We don't know how many volumes it's going to be, but you go and vote. This is the one that I think Dom compiled. DG Chichester, because we were thinking, what would that era be called? I think we just said, I was like, just call it Fall from Grace and call it a day. So in here, there's the Dennis O'Neil stuff, the Daredevil Companion Omnibus, and the Daredevil Companion Omnibus is that one that has like the Bob Gale stories, the Daredevil End of Days stories, the things that have never been collected in omnibus format, like right between the Marvel Knights Omnibus Volume 1 and Daredevil by Bendis.
The stuff that will be in the Epic collections.
Yeah, definitely. They will all be because they don't miss an issue. Elektra by Milligan, Hama and Deodato Omnibus, the Marvel Knights Elektra Omnibus, and the Modern Years Omnibus. And then, of course, the Silver Age continuation with a Volume 4. And I own one of the most obscure Marvel licenses, late 80s and early 90s. It's the Barbara Slate's Yuppies from Hell. Heard of it? Looks like a newspaper comic. I have not. That sounds like a book that's up Taylor's alley, though.
Yeah, I'm writing that down.
That's a Taylor book for sure.
So you all vote your stuff.
with your heart. So yes, I will let you know when the poll launches. Poll launches, not Paul. The hell's
I had a
Paul?
quick question about the poll. Is it are they weighted votes? Like, is your first vote weighted more than your 10th?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
10 votes. Your first votes. Your first vote counts as 10. Your last vote counts as 1.
Okay.
Pretty sure even people that don't have to be mathematicians to figure it out. So that is the Daredevil stuff, and then we're moving on to Deadpool. So Deadpool had those Jerry Duggan books right there, had the oversized hardcovers releases. The Deadpool mini bus would collect like some modern era stuff. And yes, you get 10 votes for this one. It's different than the reprint poll. Because, I mean, we have 600 something books. The least we could do is to let everybody have 10 votes. And Spider-Man and Deadpool. The Defenders, this was fun to put together because we could call it New Defenders by J.M. DeMatteis, but I figured Defenders would work. Kurt Busiek and Eric Larson, the Marvel Knight stuff. And I kept debating, like, do I keep Defenders by Bendis with Daredevil Companion or put Defenders by Bendis with, like, the Marvel Knights era?
Yeah.
Because there's only 6 issues.
And the lineup's a lot different too, right? The team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's more like the Netflix shows. So
Right.
I was like, I'm just gonna put it here. And then Defenders 3, the Secret Defenders, which is one of my most wanted. I'll be voting for that one. And the New Defenders era. And then a continuation of the classic stuff. Doctor Strange. So this is one that I know a lot of people really want volume 3.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the era that it had, I think, well, I don't know. I think Tigereyes, you would know. Does that ever make it up in the poll? Like Doctor Strange Volume 2, was that up ever high, or Volume 3? Do you see that?
Is that the Stern run?
Mm-hmm. That would be the Stern Claremont era.
For a while, it was always on the poll and then dropped off.
Oh, that's interesting.
Probably as the Marvel Masterworks got closer and we got the classic Strange Omnis, people realized it's going to make its way to Stern. Before we had no Doctor Strange Omnis, before the first movie, it used to be the Doctor Strange book that was ranked the highest on the poll, right, Tigereyes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we put both 3 and 4 there to wrap up that era, and that will take you directly to the Sorcerer Supreme Omnis, which is a Volume 3 set.
Yeah, there could be a Volume 5 that like covers the 80s Strange Tale stuff. Some people did put it on the poll. You were not ignored. But much like some of the other series where we said we only went 2 more books deep into the mapping, because why put your votes on a whole chain of books that may or may not exist or be mapped correctly? We only went 2 deep. Could there be a Volume 5? Maybe.
That's Volumes 3 and 4, Larry. You're asking where's the 1974, 1987 era? That would be that. Isn't Jed not done yet? No, he's not, but I guess he's got enough in there. So maybe one day.
Yeah, with Death of Doctor Strange, there were like 12 issues of that. Then there was the 10-issue Clea series. He's already to issue 13 of his own series. So there's a solid 30+ issue omnibus right now. If the final arcs are in sight, it could be a whole book. If it's just volume 1, it's just volume 1. But I was surprised. There's actually a lot of people put Death of, and I was like, well, that's kind of slim. But actually, McKay's got a whole omnibus of material already.
Has Strange Academy wrapped up?
Yes, for
the
now,
Young and Ramos aspect.
Yeah, but Young's coming back for another 6 issues.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw that somewhere that he was coming back
that's
to write.
exciting.
I love those characters, so I want them back. Sorry if I missed this, but how many books will be shared with Marvel? Top 20. Top 20. It is much bigger, but I also do not want to list, like, there's no way I will ever send them a list of 100 books.
Yeah,
Because I
the
work anywhere and I see a list of 100 something come through my email.
You're
No.
ignoring it. So
Top
we want to
20?
make sure.
Yeah, let's see what's going on. It just makes it, makes it a little more feasible. Fantastic Four.
Yes.
So
There's so much stuff in here.
there's a lot of things in here, and I'm sure some of this stuff will be announced. Fantastic Four by Tom Brevoort. I kept going back with Walter Simonson. I'm like, it's another one of those small books, but you know what? If the people want it, sure. Plus, it's got beautiful Arthur Adams artwork too at the end of that run.
Did you hear that, Peter?
Beautiful Arthur Adams artwork. I'm sorry, I was busy being triggered.
I let the epic comment slide earlier, but no more. So James Robinson, of course, tying up that last part of the Fantastic Four, because we had Matt Fraction and then there was no James Robinson omnibus, and then Fantastic Four was no more for a while. So after Secret Wars, they kind of went away. There was no Fantastic Four magazine until Chip Zdarsky's was it the Marvel 2-in-1 that he did with the Thing and the Human Torch, and kind of brought them back. So
we got an OHC of that.
This is the stuff that we've kind of put together. I'm a big fan of a lot of these in here. I'll be honest. I'm sure one or two of these will probably come out and then or be announced probably sometime.
I'd be shocked if Dan Slott wasn't announced soon. And I don't know anything. I don't have no knowledge. But like,
well, we don't have their last OHC yet, so it might be a little bit.
Right, it'll be a little bit. But the way they've been pumping out these modern runs like that when they're finished.
The Fantastic Four by Kessel, JMS, and McDuffie. I think that was the one that we let's just call it Years, and we kind of made it a little bit better. So
it's that last one that I'm looking at that I want the most. Fantastic Four is my favorite Marvel comic, and The Thing is my favorite Marvel character. That last one is like the Silver Age era, which worked as like a companion to the current ongoing Lee Kirby run at the time.
Oh yeah,
and Jack Kirby drew some of these issues in the early part of the run. I think Stan Lee writes the majority of it, but there was a thick, complete collection that collected all of it. But it'd make for a really cool companion to the Lee Kirby era omnibuses.
The Chips 2-in-1 has been collected in an oversized hardcover.
Yeah.
Are they going to keep printing OHCs for the runs they started? For Fantastic Four by Slott and Avengers by Hickman. Not Hickman, I'm sorry. Avengers by Aaron. I think they're going to finish those out, but no on the Daredevil by Zdarsky. Fox properties. This is more of the.
Go
ahead. No, you will.
So there's a lot of confusion over what could be these, what isn't these, but these are the big Fox properties where there are options to put out books. A lot of people put Aliens Omnibus Volume 5. That really wouldn't exist. What it would be Aliens and Predator material, which is technically always a separate continuity. I know this because I just built a guide. So there are there are actually 3 different Alien Predators. There's the multi-company Alien and Predator stuff, which probably is a slimmer chance to ever be seen, but make your voices heard. Then there's the Alien versus Predator mid-2010 stuff, which one was called Fire and Stone, the other one Life and Death. They perfectly would make one omnibus because they both got a library edition each. So I thought it had a very catchy name, Fire, Stone, Life and Death. But that actually also, if you're looking for Alien Prometheus comics, they made it so that all of the Prometheus comics were in continuity with Alien versus Predator. Then there's the classic original years Dark Horse Alien and Predator stuff. Indiana Jones is a little bit tricky. There were Marvel comics. There's a perfect omnibus size of it. Vote for it if you want it. Indiana Jones was at Dark Horse for a long time. It also included Young Indiana Jones and Indiana Jones Chronicles, but that's a lot of kind of mapping ambiguity. And we've seen that Marvel tends to just do these Dark Horse years, although they don't say Dark Horse omnibuses. So for that one, we just called it Volume 1, and you can assume that you are endorsing all of those books being collected.
The Alien versus Predator, Fire, Stone, Life, and Death is a really fun story. I believe Dan Abnett writes the latter part of it, or the former, I can't remember. But it was like a 4-issue crossover. So it was like Peter said, it was like there's an Alien issue, a Predator issue, Alien versus Predator issue, and Prometheus issue, and they all kind of interconnected. Those were fun comics, though.
The one that I love, what I assume you made this executive decision, and I'm here for it. It's the Alien versus Predator versus DC. Because can you imagine?
The fans spoke on that one. A lot of people mentioned it in past polls, so I put it on.
Well, can you imagine being a DC guy and having the Warren Ellis Stormwatch series, and then
that I have.
And then that one issue that you need where they kill off half the team, you got to go and buy the Alien versus Predator versus DC.
You have to buy the Marvel Omnibus for that one issue.
Awesome. Well done, Peter. Ghost Rider. Lots of Ghost Rider. My goodness. This is a hell of a list. So Ghost Rider 2001 to 2008, the AKA the Daniel Way era. That era has one omnibus collected, and that is the only Ghost Rider omnibus for the longest time, and that's the Ghost Rider by Jason Aaron. He starts off with issue number 20. Daniel Way and Garth Ennis wrote it right before he started, and it was a big retcon. Ghost Rider by Benjamin Percy, who's the current writer. Daniel Way. Is that doubled up on the poll, Peter? Do you see Ghost Rider by Daniel Way and Ghost Rider 2001, 2008 are both in there?
I will check.
Let's remove one of those.
Yeah, I will take a look. So I want to just point out, because I was the Ghost Rider editor, that we merged it into one. There's a lot of smaller Ghost Rider books in that period, like Hammerlane and the one with the historic Ghost Rider. And then Daniel Way's actual run is only 19 issues in an annual. So given what we've seen from Marvel, where they are now willing to do books that cover big swaths of years that collect multi-creator runs, we just called that Ghost Rider 2001 to 2008, but we put AKA Daniel Way. So if you're looking for Ghost Rider by Daniel Way, you will find it.
There we go. I would love to see that. I love that you named it the Rise of the Midnight Suns and Siege of Darkness, and the classic Johnny Blaze 1 and 2.
I gotta highlight one of our mapping colleagues here, Vin from My Cosmic Circus, who does amazing Midnight Suns guides. I will get his exact Twitter for you so I can mention it. I was talking to him about how this stuff should map, because he is the most knowledgeable. And he was saying, there's an argument to be made that whole line should probably be in books, much like we would see a DomofX anthology, because they all interrelate to each other so much. But this is not a mapping show, although we would all love it to be. We could do Map My Sons at some point later.
Oh, you want to do that and have him on?
Vin would definitely attend.
Let's do that.
So I put those with parentheses so you kind of have an idea. If that's what you want, vote for that and let Marvel decides where the cards may fall. But if you're a big Midnight Suns fan, please follow at Vin Writes Words on Twitter. He knows the most about Midnight Suns of anybody that I interact with.
You want to put it in the chat and I can highlight it?
I will put him in the chat.
So I initially thought 10 votes would be more than I need, but I'm already at 10. We're just on Ghost Rider. We haven't even gotten to X-Men. I think we went through the list a few times, and I told Peter it took me 30 minutes alone just to go through X-Men, and all I was doing was just double checking and make sure things are the right volumes and the right years. And there's a lot of X-Men coming.
There's three slides, I believe, with very small font. 3 slides.
Prepare your bodies.
All right, Golden Age comics. Taylor, take it away.
All right. So the Human Torch one in particular there. So we have the Carl Burgos Human Torch timely years. This would be the full issues, just like the Captain America one that I talked about earlier. Like we had the Kirby, Simon Kirby one that collects just the content that they did. This would be the full issues of that. So that's a little bit different than what we've had already. I guess Golden Age Marvel Comics Volume 3 is on there for the second time? Do we already have that on there? I don't know. But all Winners comics, those have been collected, I believe, in 2 Masterworks. Peter might be able to correct me on that one. But yeah, this is just great content pre-Marvel Silver Age. They're more of the anthology comics back then too.
Golden Age Marvel Comics would be a follow-up to their Volume 2, and I think they've released one a decade apart from each other. I wish Daniel Way wasn't so boring. He's all over the place in the early 2000s Marvel, but not one person has ever been like, he really moved me. Wonderful writer about him ever. I know that Peter and I have opposite thoughts when it comes to his Wolverine origins. But for the sake of the safe space that I run here on Near Mint Condition, he's not allowed to talk about his love of Daniel Way's Wolverine origins.
Peter. It's no.
We all sound so disappointed.
So clearly there's a lot more Golden Age than that, but we tried to focus on the runs that have had Masterworks that people have mentioned in the past that could be omnibus lines. I personally would buy every single one if they put them all out perfectly sequentially.
Oh, did you put his Twitter?
I did.
There it is. Hold on. Where is it? I don't see it.
Vin Writes Words.
I wish you guys could highlight things. It's so stupid how this works. So if you're wondering about the Twitter feed, Peter posted it on the chat.
I'll write it again. Hold on.
You can't find it for some reason. Okay. So moving on to Guardians of the Galaxy. We have the Guardians of the Galaxy, Cates, Ewing, Lansing, and Kelly. That would be a phenomenal omnibus. Guardians of the Galaxy by Mike Gallagher. This is the post. This is what Marvel, I think, branded the Guardians 3000. Yeah,
there's two or three trades. 3 trades that follow the Valentino trades that they came out with.
Yep. and then the Guardians of the Galaxy Rocket and Groot stories, and then Guardians of the Galaxy Star-Lord, which I think that was the one that we had to put a bunch of books together. So that's the 2008 to 2021. Some of those were ongoing series. Some of it crossed over with, of course, X-Men and the Guardians of the Galaxy, but Star-Lord had his own series. Okay. Hulk. Woo! So we added characters like Amadeus Cho in the Hulk. Then we combine Hulk, Aaron's run, Mark Waid's run, and Jerry Duggan's run together. Bruce Jones' run, which I'm sure people are looking at Hulk by Paul Jenkins and thinking, didn't they do that already? They didn't make that an omnibus. That was an oversized hardcover. So what we did here was, in case, maybe they could reprint it as an omnibus. That would be cool. And then give us a Bruce Jones, which is the immediate follow-up to the Paul Jenkins run, which was the follow-up to the John Byrne and Ron Garney omnibus that's coming out. And then Incredible Hulk by Bill Mantlo, Volume 3, or Volume 1, Incredible Hulk Volume 3, and Rampaging Hulk.
Which that one is my number one pick. I know we're not supposed to sway our votes or anything, but Rampaging Hulk was the Hulk magazine that came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called Rampaging Hulk, I think, for the first 9 issues. And then after that, on issue 10 forward, I think it was just called Hulk magazine. And that's when it went to color as well. So the first 9 issues are all black and white. Kind of like if you have like Savage Sword of Conan, like that era where Marvel was putting magazines out. They did release 2 essential volumes of this, which are really cool to read because they're in the black and white. The first 9 issues are in the black and white, just like the magazines are. So there's 2 essential volumes they've collected of these that would fit into this omnibus. But these are really cool, like, because they're kind of a little bit Elseworlds in a way. Not exactly, like they don't go in any crazy directions like DC does, but
now those don't collect the whole thing, right? Those are
no, they don't.
The Hulk issues.
So I think we need 2 omnibuses, honestly, to fit if we did the full issues.
Dogs of War was the Paul Jenkins book, Adam. You are correct.
But the artwork in this is incredible. But what they did was they took the first, because the Incredible Hulk, if you remember, in the Silver Age started with the first 6 issues, and then it got taken into one of the anthology titles. So what they did for the magazine was they just took the continuity after issue 6 and then continued it on for the magazine in kind of its own direction and stuff. So the stories are a little bit more adult. Like they're not like, there's no like high violence or nudity or anything like that, like the Savage Sword of Conan, but just like more mature in the writing style of them. And they're actually really fun stories. So that one's like
Moon Knight made appearances in those Rampaging Hulks, and those have been collected in the Moon Knight Omnis.
Yeah, because it was like an anthology title in itself where they had like the main story of the magazine was Hulk, but then they would have like a smaller character, like Moon Knight appeared in a lot of the latter issues, I believe.
And where's my buddy Geo? Thoughts and prayers for that guy. The Inhumans. So we thought putting a bunch of these early series together for an anthology of Inhumans.
Yeah, I can explain that a little bit. So if you're a big Inhumans fan, you have 2 trades. I forget what they're called, but they're both really thick. They're like 400 pages.
They're classics, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not. I forget what they're called, but they collect all of the Inhumans up until they got that Amazing Adventures series. So I did the math, and it would be one pretty big omnibus, and it would cut off right at like 1977. And then there's a lot of significant Inhuman stuff, including 2 OGNs between 1977 and the Paul Jenkins stuff that would just get abandoned. So we just broke it up into 2 early years books that kind of broadly cover that whole point. And I promise you, I actually do have a map for this. It makes perfect sense. You can vote with confidence. Then we get to the Jenkins and McKeever, which is 1998 to 2003. That's that kind of Marvel Knightsy era. There's 3 different series. It's perfect size for an omnibus. Then, and you could probably put in some post 2003 stuff, but they don't really do a whole lot that's not already in War of Kings, which is perfectly comprehensively collected, starting with Prelude to War of Kings. Then we got into a little bit of trickiness with Inhumanity and Resurrection. Some people were stumping for like an Inhumans tie-in book that had Karnak and Mosaic in it. Some people were like, what about All New Inhumans by Soul and Azimuth? We just said, look, that could be 2 whole books called Inhumanity and Resurrection that starts from where they pick up at the end of Infinity with the Terrigen Cloud being exposed and all of them more Inhumans popping up, cover the entire Souls run on the book, and also covering what they come out of IVX into, which is the Resurrection, which had Royals by Al Ewing, and it also even could include Secret Warriors by Matt Rosenberg, which was a blended cast of mutants and X-Men. So there are no Inhumans omnibuses. We could change that. I'm not trying to influence your vote. I'm just saying, if you were to vote for every one of these books, you would have every Inhumans issue that has ever existed, because I took great care.
God
It's
bless you.
amazing.
God bless you. I would love for Marvel to make more omnis focus on villains like the Green Goblin or the Lizard. I think we did have some of those solo characters. Iron Man. That needs to be changed to Invincible Iron Man Disassembled. That one's on me. I'm the one that curated this.
I'll fix it.
Thank you. Thank you. Just to make sure people know what it is.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah. Oh, good for me. Good job, past Omar. I put the creators there. So this is post the Joe Quesada era. So it will go Heroes Return, which is the Kurt Busiek and Sean Chen era. Then there's the or the Iron. What is it called? The Omnibus. It's the
Man in the Iron
Mask.
No.
Or the Iron Man in the Mask, something like that. It's a play on words, right? But that's the Quesada era. And that's where you get this is the Mike Grell, the Miller era, the Laws era, and wrapping up, taking you all the way to Disassembled. And then Iron Man, My Mad Fraction. I've seen that come up a lot. Iron Man Armor Wars was the one that people wanted. I had to put 4 books together for this one because people wanted just John Byrne. People just wanted the Armor Wars 1. So I was like, well, maybe Armor Wars 1 and 2 can be a book, and that would work. And that would follow up the Dennis O'Neil Omnibus. There's the Brian Michael Bendis stuff in there, the Christopher Cantwell era, the Kieran Gillen era, the Len Kaminsky era, which is a lot of the early 90s stuff. And Director of S.H.I.E.L.D., probably one of the most underrated runs of Iron Man that I don't hear enough people talk about, and Iron Man Volume 4 for other people that love to have Iron Man in complete chronological order. God bless you, whoever put Iron Man Director of S.H.I.E.L.D., that's one of my favorite runs, and that's one that I'll probably end up voting. You can vote for whatever. Leighton and Michelini, too, what I did was make it just the Dennis O'Neil to kind of play it safe. That's practically the Volume 2, because he ended up writing a lot of those stories after they left the book. Let's go to, and if it needs clarification, I can actually, Peter, are you on Iron Man right now?
I am. I just fixed a bunch of little things you mentioned. What else needs clarification?
Could you add let's go ahead and add Leighton and Michelini to the Dennis O'Neil, or put in parentheses, Leighton and Michelini Volume 2. Thank you. I think this is when I was like, that was my last one. I was like, I think I'm done. Licensed
you
properties.
definitely came on at one point where I was like, Omar, my eyes are not working anymore.
This is my favorite slide. There's so many cool things on here.
So this was a lot of fun. Some of them I went, some of them were just like 4 issues, so I had to scrap because I didn't know where to put it. But I decided to keep, the ones that had a long chunk of stories, and Akira colored Marvel Epic. Wow. If only, right? In a perfect world. Oh my God. Transformers, the original Marvel years, separated that from the Marvel UK era because that was its own thing. It would be cool to have them all, like have James Roberts come back and map it. Oh my gosh, I would love to sit in a room with him and map the hell out of these books. This is where you're going to find Shogun Warriors, the original Marvel years, the Strike Force Warrior. What? Yeah,
Shogun Warriors would be a great one to match with the Micronauts and the ROM, because it was another one of those long toy licenses that ran for a really long time in that same era.
Yeah. And I mean, we have Godzilla coming out. We have ROM. So, anything's possible. And yes, this is where you're going to find the alien life form that people keep mentioning in the chat for some reason.
Can I just throw a vote out for Beavis and Butthead? So I'm not even the biggest Beavis and Butthead cartoon fan, but those comics were drawn by Rick Parker. Some might know him as the letter of everything McFarlane when McFarlane was coming on big, but he's a great cartoonist, and he puts so much detail and little Easter eggs in all of the panels of those comics. The comics were really, really fun, and he loves those comics. I think you'd love to see him collected, but that Beavis and Butthead comic book run, it actually is a lot of fun. I think it ran for 30 to 40 issues.
It was big. Brendan Snippy ran for a while too. That has some
Dan Slott's early writing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the 2001 Space Odyssey, that one, Treasury Edition, is one of my most wanted reprints ever by Jack Kirby. But then he went on to write the 10-issue follow-up series where we saw Machine Man debut in issue number 8, I believe. So that one would be a little bit odd. I don't know if you'd throw in Machine Man and also to pack in that omnibus. Otherwise, it's just that bigger sized Treasury Edition and then the 10-issue follow-up series. But either way,
Machine Man at first appearance too, which with for some reason was controversial. Just a little bit ago saying, well, now DC owns the rights to.
Oh yeah, that is weird.
And I was like, I don't
yeah, but
know
she
if
made
that will
debuts in
work.
issue number 8, and I know that because I was trying to collect the 10 issues in single issues because I didn't think this would ever happen, and which it still might not. And that issue 8 is like super hard to like. People were speculating that Machine Man might show up in the MCU, so I had to pay like an arm and a leg for that freaking issue number 8 for that. But that wouldn't be a smaller one unless you include the follow-up Machine Man series.
There's a really good question here that I want to go back to. Oh gosh, where is it? How does the original Akira compare to the manga? So let me just kind of give you a small preview. So in America, we were really afraid of manga in black and white. So what Marvel did in this really cool, we got them in single issues here, was Marvel hired Steve Oliff with approval by Katsuhiro Otomo to go back and recolor every panel. So the mangaka, the creator of Akira, Katsuhiro Otomo, oversaw every single frame. He actually told Steve Oliff what to fix in some panels, if the hair color was wrong or the way he envisioned him. It is beautifully colored, absolutely stunning and jaw-dropping. It is in the left-to-right format. It's been released in a series of 5 trade paperbacks. 6 never came out. So, and those don't even I'm just going to tell you, if you don't own them right now, unless you got lots of money, don't even look at the prices of those books because they are ridiculous. But when these came out, there was a hiatus. I don't know if people remember that, but there was a big hiatus where we didn't get any for years, not just in Japan for him to finish it out, but also here to get it translated. And then they finally blessed us with the final, I think it was 4 volumes. Let me show you something cool. And I hope the final volumes, the final 2 volumes, have these really cool, like pinups by like Joe Mad over here on the left hand, or they'll be your left, my right. There's an actual original comic book here by comic book Western creators that just love Akira. So you have like extra little comics in the back. So it's not just like Akira in color. It's Akira with like all the goodies here. Like these are amazing.
As you said, that having Otomo oversee the coloring process like just gives you confidence that they're really, really beautiful comics.
Absolutely. But that's the difference. And the big thing is, why is it here on the Marvel poll? Because Marvel owns the rights to those colors. So Kodansha can never reprint them. It's a weird thing. I'm the Uncanny Omar, and I say you all need to vote for the Iron Man Omnis. No, I wasn't paid to say this. I'm serious. Also, I want an Omnibus. John, damn well nobody's going to believe.
Well, John messed up. John messed up there by leaving his actual name on there. You can't start off, I'm the Uncanny Omar with your name thing.
So, you all vote for however you want to. I just think that one right there is amazing. And that's one of my prized possessions, is like having the entire set. And it's funny because I don't keep them in like bags and boards or CGCs because I love looking through them all the time. And can you imagine that in oversized format? Forget
beautiful.
It. So this is, you got Barbie in here. Big Hero 6 is also thrown in here. And then
Barbie's got some early Amanda Conner artwork. She did the first few issues of that. And then Battlestar Galactica, I think it has some Walter Simonson art.
Yes, it did. Yeah. So Akira had 10 trade paperbacks. It was 5 hardcovers, I'm sorry. And those 5 hardcovers were never finished. It's a shame, but who knows? Maybe one day. Though, let me tell you, if I ever see any custom omnis of those, I don't care how much I have to. My kids don't need to go to college.
I'm surprised that hasn't happened. Like the custom ones.
Me blowing away my kids' college. Some days my wife wonders that too. All right, let's go ahead and go for Malibu. Somebody was asking about these earlier. So Marvel had acquired the rights to the Malibu universe.
Speaking of coloring, though, and coloring rights, didn't they acquire Malibu just to get their coloring process?
Yep.
Wasn't the big thing?
So goes the legend.
Because they saw what they had been doing with Image Comics at first, and then Image did their own thing. So yeah,
that's when you see like the transfer in like the 90s era of Marvel, where it really transfers into that more digital looking coloring system.
Mm-hmm. So this is where you're going to see a lot of crossovers with like the Phoenix, because they have like their own exiles. That was the Ultraverse. Ultraforce had a cartoon too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't
They had
go
a
quite as
cartoon as well.
comprehensively on this one as we did on Crossgen and Marvel UK and some of the other ones because there's no indication Marvel actually could
Well,
legally do this.
Yeah.
Every time
And-
they get asked, they're like, we won't even speak on Ultraverse. So these are just the biggest, longest runs of Ultraverse comics. I didn't kind of do a companion style one because I didn't think even the votes were there. But I know some of these are really popular, especially Rune and Nightman. And it seemed like maybe enough people would have these
Nightman
fodder
was
for those
awesome.
that could make it onto the poll. So I gave you all of the major 18+ issue runs from Ultraverse, which honestly, I would buy every issue and bind them myself if I was still in the States. But there are not a lot of copies of Ultraverse in New Zealand, I've discovered.
Who are the artists on like Rune and Nightman?
Barry Windsor-Smith did a lot of Rune.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Barry Windsor-Smith.
Yep.
That's enough reason for me to buy it
did
then.
some stuff in Nightman, and George Perez did that Avengers Ultra Force. Yeah, it was the Ultra Force crossover.
Yeah.
Brian Hitch did some stuff with the Phoenix crossover. But I think this is a really good start, though. This is a really good start for a collection. Marvel 2099. Not a lot of stuff left, right? We need Punisher. We need Doom. Ravages. I mean, we went with series that are big enough to collect things, right? To actually have a big collection of. But I love the Marvel 2099 companion idea. That's where you put the Hulk. That's where you put the Fantastic Four, the World of Tomorrow, the stuff that came out years later, and the Manifest Destiny. But I would also throw in there the 2099 Unlimited, the stories that didn't make it to the Spider-Man 2099 or X-Men 2099.
Ravage is such a weird series because it's like Stan Lee coming back, like it's like the last Marvel character he created or whatever, coming back in the 90s to try to write with the kids of that era. It's interesting, but Paul Ryan artwork.
Yeah, and Doom has such a cool twist. I love that book. I hope that's the one that comes next.
I agree.
And Ravage, of course, is Stan Lee's baby, so I'm sure that will come one day. So
and that's if we have the whole original 2099 if we had these 4 books,
which is wild but awesome,
crazy. It goes to show you, right, Tigereyes, just how far Marvel has done their own thing.
Absolutely.
I'm sure like Spider-Man 2099 was on the poll for a number of years, probably, huh? Before
I remember voting for Spidey 2099 for a couple of years.
I think what you're about to show is going to have one of the more popular ones.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. The Marvel Alternate Realities. So
shout out to, I believe, DomofX for mostly handling these because I did not know what the heck they were.
Yeah, we put all the 1602 together. And I think he was debating on a name, and I'm like, just call it 1602, it's fine.
Supreme Power, that was like such a weird, like when I was a teenager, I was reading those comics, and I was like, those were like the first time I read comics that had like explicit stuff in it, and I was like, I don't think I should be reading this, but as like a young teenager, but that stuff is good. It has JMS writing in there. At least I remember it being good. I liked it back then.
I mean, I like my original Squadron Supreme. The Supreme Power was kind of like, that his version, and it was good. Don't get me wrong, it was good.
It was one of the first times I read a series.
Peter and Tigereyes, do y'all remember? Wasn't there a lot of like behind the scenes drama with that? Like they couldn't finish it, so he had to come back, and like there was a big hiatus for a long time. I don't know if it was the artist. Who was it? Gary Frank, I think. Gary Frank did some of it, and I can't remember who the other artist was. God bless you for Nth Man, the Ultimate Ninja. Whoever you are that wrote that in there, thank you for doing the Lord's work. I'm curious what Tigereyes.
It's not on here. The universe is on here, but the character's not on here.
Oh, it's coming.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's keep it quiet.
Ooh, the tension builds. The suspense.
Marvel Bronze Age titles.
These are some like odds and ends from the Bronze Age.
So Kill Raven, which has been collected in Epic Collection, Marvel Team Up Volume 1, of course, 2 and 1. Those are the ones that I see a lot of people ask for. Mainly the Marvel 2 and 1.
That's what I want.
Because we've had the Thing collected in omnibus format. And that series, once it ends, it leads into the Thing ongoing series. Did you really, James? That was you that added Nth Man? God bless you. Such a wonderful story. Crazy Magazine Volume 1 and Foom, which takes us to the Marvel events, which they've done an amazing. Oh my gosh, there's still that many. Peter, did you do this or was this Dom?
This was again the work of our amazing friend and channel intern DomofX. who
My
I,
goodness,
who
killed it.
he was very nervous that he missed something. I'm like, no, you did not miss anything.
Oh God, Civil War and Civil War 2. All right, Age of Ultron, Avengers, and X-Men Axis, and Chaos War, one of the most underrated events. That one's by Greg Pak. I love that event. The Infinity Trilogy Saga by Jim Starlin, Original Sin, Secret Empire, Omnibus, Secret Wars, Battle World 2, Secret Wars, The Complete Secret Wars. Oh my gosh, somebody just wants Secret Wars in Omnibus. Okay. Siege, Spider Island. I'm surprised I didn't. Oh, because all they would have to do is, put the Amazing Spider-Man and the Companion together.
I'm surprised because a lot of these have gotten already gotten to OHCs and whatnots too. So like even the files and stuff probably wouldn't be too hard for Marvel to make.
Do me a favor, Peter. What's Secret Wars 2024? Was there a Secret Wars?
It is a mini series that is set during the actual original Secret Wars when Spider-Man goes off panel to get a sandwich.
Okay, worth it. Keep it in there.
Who's the creative team on that?
It's somebody classic. Is it Tomatoes? It's somebody classic. I
It's one of
remember
those
Dom
throwback-
asking me, and I was like, "Yeah, why not? It's 4 issues. Put it in there."
It's one of those throwback like miniseries they've been doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it Tom DeFalco? Somebody in chat just said it was DeFalco. Maybe. It was
Oh
DeFalco.
yes. Okay.
Oh, the Falco. Okay, that sounds. I thought it was like Chip Zdarsky when you described it. That sounds like a Chip Zdarsky book, but the Falco.
You could totally see.
Emily? Oh
Zdarsky
hell
or
yeah,
something.
that needs to be in there then. Okay, Axis should just be an expanded Uncanny Avengers.
We all feel that way. Alas,
Yeah.
the ship has sailed. But I will say that would have the 2015, and I just made a note on the actual poll. It would have the 2015 5-issue Rick Remender Uncanny Adventures series where Sabretooth is on the team because it's a direct spin-off of Axis and it's 5 issues, so it would fit.
This is a big
And-
slide. Get ready.
I made this. I condensed 4 books, which what are they? I can't remember. I just put, did you just put Marvel's Frankenstein? Oh, because they wanted their own Marvel Frankenstein. They wanted the zombie book, but that was already collected in the Marvel Horror Lives Again. And I kind of just went with a classic horror title with Return of Marvel Horror. So kind of explains what it is. But there's a lot of little stories that could add to that for that era.
It's a much better name than Marvel Lives Again. Marvel Lives Again.
Marvel UK.
Oh,
Was this you, Peter?
oh yes, my friends. If you're so again, I have this mapped perfectly down to the issue, and I want to give people a chance. I know there are Death's Head fans out there. So this is the 2 major Death's Head books. The original years, which would be slim, but I think has its own appeal separate from Death's Head 2. And then Death's Head 2, which would be
Yes.
all of his appearances. It's pretty thick, actually. It'd be like 40 plus issues. Then there's a number of heroes in Marvel UK that are big enough that they can have their own book. I'm a huge Dark Angel fan, Motormouth and Kill Power. Also, the whole Gene Pool subline and Warheads. If anybody other than me remembers them, I have every issue. But there's also Night Raven, who is its own Marvel UK comic that predates all of the Marvel UK continuity from the 90s. And then there could be a companion that has a lot of the shorter stuff and some of the events as well. I would buy every single page of every single book here. So if you're a big fan, I've made sure that you are covered as your subline editor on this poll.
Thank you for that. And thank you for explaining about Death's Head and Death's Head 2. Beautiful art.
Death's Head 2 is the one with like the weird, like broken up face mask that he's like kind of creepy looking, but I really like him.
I describe him a little
Liam
different.
Sharp art.
Yes,
Yeah.
early Liam Sharp art. Great stuff.
I just remember like Wolverine breaking his adamantium claws on him, and he's like, "What is this guy made out of?" The Bronze Age titles. So a lot of the stuff that was left out that we haven't seen yet, the Contest of Champions trilogy. Y'all know the story behind Contest of Champions, right? Like why they had to do it again.
Yeah.
Well,
Very
somebody
interesting.
didn't count. Darkhold, which would be really cool to see. Man-Thing Volume 2, continuing those stories and having, I assume, the Steve Gerber, what was it, the Infernal Man-Thing?
Oh,
miniseries?
yeah.
Beautiful artwork, too, by Kevin Nolan.
Marvel Knights here is one of the few true double dips on here. You already saw it earlier in the Daredevil. We know that there are some Black Widows things in there as well. This Marvel Knights would only be the 3 books actually called Marvel Knights: Marvel Knights 1, Marvel Knights 2, and Marvel Knights Double Shot. But if you prefer to have them all in one book that's not branded Daredevil, here is your option.
Back to Man-Thing, you could pack in the aforementioned Liam Sharp's run in there too, right? Didn't Liam Sharp do like a 8 or 9 issue run in the 90s, I think? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Terror was. Did I skip something? Because I know sometimes Bronze Age. Okay. Did you mean to add these in here, Taylor?
I copy and pasted it from the sheet.
Why did we have this under Bronze Age?
I think maybe it was called Modern at one point, and we changed the category.
Doesn't matter. You're not going to see categories on the poll itself.
Yeah.
But
it's mostly for Taylor's sanity.
And for us to have a good conversation.
DH without Doctor Who. Yeah, Jeff, but this is our made-up world and our list, so we could put Doctor Who where he shrinks that set.
We never had
was a bounty hunter for the Transformers.
I guess we could have had a Doctor Who under the license one, right?
We decided that was its own beast and should probably be handled separately.
You should put Lars on that project.
More than 63. We haven't gotten to the Ultimate Universe or the X-Men. Here's your new universe, though, Larry. You remember that? Do you remember the new universe, Tigereyes?
I remember it. Never read any of it.
You haven't read any of the stuff? Okay.
This was Jim Shooter's answer to the Dark Knight Returns Watchmen that DC had going on. He's like, I see you, DC, with your Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen. Let's see what I could do.
Some of it was better than others. Cyforce was my personal favorite. Starbrand shows up in the 616. So does Nightmask, right? During Hickman's run.
It is a fun little pocket universe of Marvel with, I think the historical context behind it and everything that went into the behind the scenes stuff is more interesting to me than the actual output, but it is very interesting. And we've gotten some trade paperbacks in the past.
Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. So lots of love here for Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. Peter, I assume you put volume 1 and 2 here because you kind of know exactly how many issues there would be.
Yes, so I checked where the omnibuses left off, and there could be kind of a whole omnibus of all the really significant Nick Fury arcs up to 1988, which also has a pair of Nick Fury miniseries. Somebody in a previous poll mapped it really, really well, so there's a map that actually exists. And then Nick Fury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Volume 2 would actually be the actual Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. series, which ran from 1989 to 1993. It's pretty lengthy. It goes 40-plus issues, so there's no way to do both of those things in one book.
There's also like a six volume like graphic novel series that came out, or that would be in the volume 2 also, I assume.
I kind of stayed fuzzy on that by just putting the years, because a lot of like the Scorpio Rising and stuff, some of those are already in the Wolverine book, so it's kind of like so let's let people vote for those. There could always be a volume 3.
And then Sergeant Fury and Italian Commandos, that could be like 3, maybe 4 volumes. That series ran for like 120 issues, but then some of those latter issues were like every other one was a reprint, so probably 3 volumes, I'd assume.
How many issues? 130?
120 to 130 total, but then like the last 40 issues or so, like every other issue was a reprint of a previous issue and then a new issue. So it's like really only like 90 or so issues total. My numbers might be wrong there. Someone could correct me, but
one of my favorites. This was another hard list to curate because there's just so many books that so many people want, and I was thinking, well, how would we do this? Because people want it. Like I saw the list, and that's why, because it got confusing, because it was like, I want to Punisher Classic Omnibus Volume 1. I want to Punisher Omnibus Volume 1. I want Punisher The Early Years Volume 1. I think people had forgotten that we already had a Back to the War Omnibus, which collects a lot of that stuff. So what I did was, maybe they're thinking they want the ongoing series, so let's go ahead and put the Grant, Barron, and Dixon stuff together, and we just call it Circle of Blood, kind of like, named after the graphic novel. But then I separated it by like modern Punisher by Clunan, Rosenberg, and Krudensky, and then the Greg Rucka run, of course, that a lot of us want. Matt Fraction's omnibus, but that's the Punisher War Journal. And then we have the original Punisher War Journal and the original Punisher War Zone, because at one time Punisher was just everywhere selling like hotcakes. And I also added the Punisher Companion Max series, which a lot of the stories that haven't been printed in omnibus format or in oversized hardcover format, not just by Garth Ennis, but other writers as well. So,
which one do you put which volume would you put what was it, Punisher's ammunition or weapons, or what was that 10-issue run where it's just a comic?
Oh, the kind of like the handbook of his weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, probably I'd scatter them about in the Punisher Circle of Blood. Yeah.
They were ridiculous that they even existed, but it was kind of cool because Jim Lee really took a liking to like drawing things very accurate to the actual weapons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But so they're ridiculous, but they'd be kind of cool to pack them in there.
Oh, I think they will. I mean, once they get to it. Silver Age non-superhero comics. Man, we got a lot of books.
Oh, this one is a great slide as well.
Books that have never been collected that need, like, have no masterworks, too, because Millie the Model's never had a masterwork. Patsy and Hattie and Patsy Walker have never.
Right. I think Rawhide Kid did.
Yeah, but I don't think it went through the whole thing.
No, it didn't.
So these were books that have come out, and we added the years. Peter, you handled this one, didn't you? This is you.
I did. I mean, this isn't comprehensive, but Marvel had a lot of these kind of romance era comics, some of which were really long running and notable. Typically, the two you hear about are Millie the Model and Patsy Walker, especially since Patsy Walker became Hellcat. But Chili actually ran relatively long as well.
Yeah.
So I looked at past polls. I really looked through what people have submitted to Tigereyes in the past. And I just tried to pick out the books that seemed like they had the most material and the most support behind them. But clearly there's a lot of other things that this could include.
And then Captain Savage and his Leatherneck Raiders was a spinoff of the Sergeant Fury and Howling Commandos, the aforementioned series I just talked about. Marvel Western by Kirby would be great because we got the War and Romance Kirby Omnibus. This would be a great companion to that. So
this is definitely the slide that will give people like Corey Settlemeyer a headache. Like, oh my gosh,
could you imagine?
None of this has been restored.
I would buy every single one of them.
I would love it. I would love. I mean, because it takes a
one.
lot of time, money, and effort just restoring one panel at a time. Silver Surfer, who's gotten a lot of love in Epic Collection, but not much love in Omnibus format. Who made the decision to put Jack Kirby in there? Was that you, Peter, or was that Dom? I remember having a conversation with you.
Hey,
so this was me.
Okay,
I had Silver Surfer, so let me talk through it. So Silver Surfer 1999 to 2011, there were a lot of Silver Surfer individual mini-series, brief series, In Thy Name, all of the stuff that kind of got us all the way to Marvel now. None of them are long enough to be collected on their own, but together they can make a really hot volume, so that is what that is.
Okay.
J.M. DeMatteis, I probably is later in that Silver Surfer run, and it's one of those creator-centric ones that people ask for, even though it would be like a volume 6, 7, or 8. So it would
be the final part of that run.
Yeah, so I guess I could put AKA volume final, if that would help people understand. Jack Kirby is the stuff that's in the first Silver Surfer epic, which unfortunately is behind another book here, so I can't grab it. But it's never been omnibused all together. It's the Lee Kirby Silver Surfer Omnibus is just the actual Stan Lee Silver Surfer 18-issue series. So a lot of people, even though it's been all collected comprehensively in Fantastic Four, still ask for it and vote for it. So
the one thing I could add to that, though, that volume to make it a selling point, never been reprinted or collected in anywhere else by Marvel, would be that graphic novel, The Cosmic Experience. It was put out by Firestone back in the day. Fireside Books back in the day. It was Jack Kirby's like kind of like his pitch for like what a Silver Surfer movie would be like, and Stan Lee wrote it, but it was kind of Jack Kirby because Kirby had a different take on Silver Surfer than Lee did. So it's kind of Jack Kirby writing the Silver Surfer he wanted to write. It's like 80 to 100 pages, I think. I have it over here somewhere. But if they put that in there, it'd be a great selling point for people that are like, well, it's a lot of double dipping, but it has that one thing in there that's never been collected.
That's a good selling point. I like that. Silver Surfer by Steve Englehart, Volume 2 is the one that I get asked, when is that coming? Considering Volume 1 was over a decade ago, and then it got reprinted. So vote with your heart and soul.
There it is.
Solo characters. Holy moly. Let's just
get ready, y'all.
Here's the list. Way too many of them. Good on you all if you enjoy these characters. Look at Deathlock. You've got Deathlock Classic and then Michael Collins Deathlock. So we even separated it like that. Blade, the Night Stalker era, and the modern years. So keep that in mind. It's a little bit different, but I think adding the year, adding the creators was amazing. Like, good job, Pete. I think this was you, right?
I mean, there's just so much. There's so much. So we tried.
This is where we also added Namor. So don't feel like, oh, you guys didn't put Namor or Moon Knight. I've seen people ask for Moon Knight. Moon Knight has been collected remarkably well for a character that wasn't that huge for Marvel Comics.
Oh, there's a Machine Man right there. That'd be cool.
Yes. But so this is where you're going to find Moon Knight, the modern stuff, the Bendis, Ellis, Bunn, Lemire, Bemis, all of it together. The Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, we put volume 2 to the G. Will Wilson, and then we did the volume 3, which is the Solid and Ahmed run. Jack of Hearts in here. So this is where you're going to find some solos characters. We separated the Kazar stories here, the Silver Age, from the Mark Waid and Andy Kubert era.
Jack of Hearts might have been when I was looking at this list, that might have been the most ridiculous one I saw. I was like, I like some obscure.
Nobody wants that though, man.
I like some obscure, weird titles and stuff, but the Jack of Hearts omnibus, like he never had an ongoing run. Like it would be, I might.
It would probably be an early years style omnibus. He doesn't have a lot of appearances. It's like 30.
He does,
but if he was suddenly in a movie, we would just get Jack Hearts.
He's a fun character.
Look. Jack of Hearts.
It's a fun character.
He's amazing in Rainbow Ralph She-Hulk right now, and made me go back and read old Jack of Hearts. So,
like when Bendis handled that character, yeah, he was great.
Yeah. Just a couple of quick notes on this one. Does that say Nomad? That's it. Say Nomad. Sentry absolutely has enough comics to fill an omnibus. I checked. Shang-Chi, I know a lot of people are saying, why wouldn't it just be Jinlin Yang? But we just got a complete collection of that. So Marvel chose not to go to omnibus, but there is some significant Shang-Chi material, including a Max series by Doug Moench from 2002 to 2015. And they would easily fit into all one book. So this could just be basically a whole modern Shang-Chi book. Omar, do you want to talk about the She-Hulk a little? Because I know you and I went back and forth on that considerably.
So She-Hulk, I had to condense a lot. So Sensational She-Hulk by not John Byrne.
I hope that's what they call it too.
Just to make sure people knew these are the missing issues that were not by John Byrne. Even though John Byrne didn't care about reading these when he came back and was like, I'm just going to do my thing.
I hope Marvel releases that and calls it the not John Byrne She-Hulk.
Soul and Tamaki makes sense because they're not huge runs, but big enough for an omnibus. And then, of course, Sensational She-Hulk volume. What is that?
So that could be, look, if this whole not John Byrne thing pisses you off, if you don't want the John Byrne book because it skips issues, you're me and I am you. And so then you could just vote for Sensational She-Hulk Volume 1.
Chronological order.
Yeah, and I'll put in there overlaps Byrne to make.
Thank you for adding that. And this is where you're also going to find Sleepwalker and
Silver Sable. Silver Sable. A series
the one thing
went on.
Peter,
go ahead.
that I think we need to add. I don't. Where did I miss it?
I think there's another slide.
Red She-Hulk. Is she in here?
We missed it. I will try my best to add it now.
Oh, thank you. God bless you. Thank you. I don't know why, because I told. Yeah. I don't think it was suggested then, right?
No, well, I know it's not on there because Red She-Hulk is mostly written by Jeff Parker, and we have Jeff Parker Hulk. So the idea is that if there's a Jeff Parker Hulk line, so I will put
it would be added on there.
I'll put that on the Jeff Parker Hulk. And thanks.
Okay.
I forget who in the chat explained that to me, but somebody in the chat sent me straight, and I really appreciated it.
Got it. Red She over ElfQuest. I don't think Marvel published ElfQuest. Right?
Oh, they had some issues in the Epic line
of ElfQuest.
Yeah, I think in the Marvel Epic line, I think they did some. It was after ElfQuest had already been established. I'll look it up.
That's awesome. Okay, Spider Heroes. Where's Spider Woman? I think this is where you're gonna find her. So we'll do right by you, Tigereyes. We're gonna add Red She-Hulk somewhere. Green Goblin, Morbius the Living Vampire Volume 2. Instead of calling it the I did all this. Oh God. Instead of calling it the modern omnibus, I kind of figured Volume 2 makes more sense. Peter Porker Spider-Ham, Silk, Volume 1, Slinger, Spider-Girl, Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, Modern Years, Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, the early years. So this, I think that would be done in one omnibus, and then Jessica Drew, the modern years, could also be done in, well, depending on how much there is of that.
Yeah, the Epic print did 32 installments of ElfQuest.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Spider-Man. This was a huge one because I think there were like 80 entries for Spider-Man, and a lot of them were very, very similar. So what I did was condense them to Big Time, Gauntlet, Identity Crisis, because technically that could be the post-Clone Saga stuff. Renew Your Vows, Spider-Man 6, Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider, but separating it the the Chris Yost era and then the Peter Davids era. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I made this dumb decision, but I don't care. I was tired by this point. I'm putting Peter David with Tom Taylor stuff. It's the same title. She-Hulk, Sensational She-Hulk 2. How did I get in here? Is that what you meant, Peter?
It is, I fixed it.
Okay. Awesome. Sensational Spider-Man, and then the DeMatteis Spider-Man, and then the Spectacular Spider-Man by Paul Jenkins, Spectacular Volume 2. James DeMatteis is kind of like the 200th issue of Spider-Man. And Marvel Knight Spider-Man, Mexican wait a minute, I put Mexican Gwen Stacy in there. Okay. Y'all know what I meant. Mexican Gwen Stacy Spider-Man. Spider-Man Adventures, the Black Costume Saga Aftermath, which technically is like Kraven's Last Hunt and stories like that. But we're not done with Spider-Man, because you also wanted creator-centric people like Spider-Man by Peter David, David Michelinie, Mark Bagley, Volume 2. There's the Gamerverse, which I think somebody wanted a Dennis Hopeless Spider-Man, but he wrote just the Gamerverse stuff, so I kind of looped them together. Gathering of 5 in the final chapter before the next chapter, I think is what that era would be called. And that's where this is. This is the Howard Mackie and John Byrne remapped for one omnibus experience, instead of having just the John Byrne stories collected. I do have the Spider Island saga here too, Peter. Is that double dipping in that Spider Island event book that Peter or that Dom put together?
Yes, I will kill the double dip.
Thank you. The animated series and the Spider-Verse Companion, because they keep making more and more of those, and even Web of Spider-Man and Superior Spider-Man for his other series. Web Spinners, I can't believe y'all are digging deep. Gang War is the new Gang War.
I will make a note.
Yeah, I should have written the year. I'm sorry, because I keep forgetting that they recycle names too. Whew. After you make that note, take the helm, Peter, and talk about Star Wars, because you did this one.
Okay. I did do this one, even though Curtis really is my personal expert, but I did my best. So look, folks, there's basically two big hunks of Star Wars we could talk about. There's Legends and there's modern continuity. Legends is pretty clear because we're only one epic collection away from Legends being completely collected. And it's pretty clear how the Legends epics map into omnibuses. So this is pretty much everything. Even that's why some of them are volume 1, volume 2s. Some of them could get past a volume 2, but we really tried not to put like multiple, like 3, 4, 5, if a mapping is not clear. There are a few character specific ones that would excerpt things. So Star Wars Legends, Boba Fett, that would be covered in other books, but people love Boba Fett. So you could just get a whole Boba Fett book. The other thing is
happen.
Also movie adaptions, right? They're spread throughout all of the different omnibuses and epic collections per era. Some people just want a book that's literally read the movies. That would be really cool. I did the research. It would fit. It would be actually, I think, really cool now that I've seen you do it. Clone Wars Adventures has not been collected by Marvel yet. So that is a really big and exciting one that could hit omnibus. Also in that Legends category, but technically not a Legends because they are a continuity unto themselves, is Infinities and Legacy 1 and 2. So that's all prior, pre-Marvel, pre-canon, right? Then there's Marvel canon. We really tried to cover everything up until where we are, with the exception of a couple random miniseries that don't really group very well. So there are some of them that are events, like Bounty Hunters and Crimson Reign. I will put event, or no, Bounty Hunters, not event, ongoing book. Crimson Reign was an event. Dark Droids was an event. We could have Darth Vader by Greg Pak, Volume 1. We could get a Volume 1 of Charles Soule. We could get a Volume 3 of Dr. Aphra. And there are enough limited series in that post A New Hope era that came out in 2015 to 2019 that they would make a perfect book all on their own. Chewbacca, Solo, the 2 Lando series, Leia, and TIE Fighter. Even if some of those Lando series had flashbacks, they were kind of all about being in that post New Hope era. So that would be a great omnibus. And then we'll get a similar omnibus after this post Empire Strikes Back era ends, and we know what the full scope of that is. And I know Poe Dameron is a very popular one. It was on the Tigereyes Poll last year, so that is on there as well. So this is as close as we can get as to listing every possible Star Trek, every Star Wars book that is missing, with the exception of just very, very new stuff that we don't know how it would be collected yet.
Okay, moving on to
Omar, wait, there's a
Please.
question I need you to answer because I do not know the answer. It's 5 comments up from the Transcendent Travis.
Transcendent Travis. 5 comments up.
Maybe like
Oh.
7 now.
Omar, you guys need to fix Scarlet Spider by Yost because it's not Ben Reilly though. It's spoilers.
Is that the case?
Yeah, just call it Scarlet Spider. Can you still edit?
Yes.
Because editing is a pain for me right now because I think we're both in there. So if you've got access to edit, can you edit that? And also, I know I saw Symbiote Spider-Man by Peter David. Freddie was saying we need to add it, and I cannot find it. Okay, yeah, this isn't it's just slogging through here because I think we're both in the same editing sheet. So I'm gonna leave the sheet and let you do it instead of having both of us.
That's what makes these live shows so great is that we can crowdsource from the commenters.
So as long as it's not, it's also a pain though because we're looking at 600 and how many 20 something things that we have to go through, and it's not
positive.
It's not the friendliest thing to let you edit.
I was trying to make the chat feel like they're part of the experience.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they are. Hit that like button, please. Yeah, the Scarlet Spider Texas stuff is in my top 10s. That stuff rules. Teams. Okay. So this is all the teams that aren't X-Men, that aren't Avengers. You get the idea. You get 10 votes, JJ. Agents of Atlas, all the remaining Alpha Flight stuff. And there were so many suggestions for Alpha Flight that it was like, oh, I think they just want Alpha Flight too. The Bill Mantlo stuff, but they kept people calling it different names. Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat, was covered earlier, but you're gonna find
not Hellcat. We actually don't have Hellcat. I will add it.
Okay, thank you for that suggestion.
I'm trying my best, y'all.
No. You do what you need to do. Let me talk a little bit about these. Or, Tigereyes, are you a fan of the New Warriors?
The original team.
Okay, yeah, me too. Right. Hashtag not my New Warriors. I get it. So this era that is here, the 1999 to 2009 era, it's after the original team. Marvel every few years would try to make New Warriors happen again. So this is the era that will have the volume 2, the volume 3, and that's the Zeb Wells TV personality era. The volume 4 era, that I actually like that era a lot. That's the one where Jubilee, where they have a bunch of depowered mutants joining the team. I see you shaking your head. Thank you for that, Tigereyes. I appreciate that.
Tigereyes putting his thumb on the scale for that one.
This is where you're finding the Kieran Gillen, Eternals. I love the Damage Control is in here, Clandestine. And this is where you're going to find Thunderbolts. But keep in mind, when you see it in the poll, it's in alphabetical order. So keep that in mind. We're just kind of separating them by categories here. Also, Warlock and the Infinity Watch, even though some of it has been collected in the Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity War and Infinity Crusade, not all of it is collected in those books. So what you have here is Thunderbolts by Ellison Gage, which we're calling Volume 4, and then Andy Diggle is AKA Volume 5.
Real quickly, just as a fan of the original Invaders series, is how many issues would that collect roundabouts? Is that like a lot of material? The Invaders
it's
98.
Not a lot, but there's like enough.
But there's mini-series too.
Yeah. There's the 1998 Marvel Universe series. Then they have an Invaders series in the early 2000s. Then they have the Avengers series, which is usually collected as part of Avengers. And then it actually could push all the way through All New Invaders by Robinson. So there's enough that it could be a whole.
I'm a big fan of the original series. I didn't know there's that much modern material.
It was, I think, in between all the miniseries and the series that got canceled, and Chuck Austin.
And again, we wanted to make sure every Marvel line was represented here, unless there was literally 4 issues. So if it looked like there were 400 plus pages and it was a line that we know people have a love of, we really tried to find a way to get it into the poll, because we know if everybody had their own votes, people would come up with a whole fractal amount of every possibility. And so we tried to give everybody kind of more of an antenna for each major line or character that they could zero in on and vote for.
This next slide only has one option, but it's a big one.
So wouldn't those 2 Thunderbolts issues fit into one Omni?
No.
There's your answer.
Hold it. Can we go back to teams for 1 second? I was busy editing the poll, so I didn't get to talk about the one thing I really wanted to talk about. I won't be long, I promise.
This one here, or
yes.
Yeah.
So Power Pack. People called it Power Pack Volume 3. Power Pack had that extended run of all ages comics in the 2000s, all with amazing good hero art. It's not mainline continuity, but it's all in continuity to itself. It's super, super charming. So that is what that entry is.
How many
a lot
issues
of people had written it in as Volume 3, but it wouldn't be Volume 3.
How many issues was that?
I do not know offhand, but it met the Omni criteria. There's like at least 7 4-issue miniseries.
Is that like all ages friendly?
It is one.
it is.
Well, I would call it ages 8 and up personally, but yes, it's all
I
ages.
might have to check
and
that out.
they're really good. They've been releasing digest size. So Connor, this is what happens when you work with a group of wonderful people. You take a vote in the democracy that we created, staying up all night doing this. We worked our butts off, so I wanted everybody to weigh in on this. So what Connor's saying, you could have cut down a few hundred. I don't know about a few hundred. Definitely probably 50. If you only did one follow-up in one volume, in my opinion, like have volume 2 up, but no volume 3, as you would imagine Marvel would do it that way. Yes, but I wanted everybody to take a vote in. And in the past, I think is what Peter went with.
I want to pose this to Tigereyes. So you're the one who knows the state of the best. Talk about in previous years, would people vote for like a volume 1 and then deeper in the poll it'd be a volume 2 or volume 2 and volume 3? Because I feel like I remember that. Was that a phenomenon sometimes?
Yes, early on there was definitely like Pat Hulk would be on the list 2-3 times, but people voting also would use 4 or 5 of their votes for just Thor volume 3, volume 4, volume 5, volume 6. Just to, if they had nothing else to, or what that wanted. Go ahead.
No, that was Peter's decision to kind of mirror that process. So it's interesting to hear you say that.
And also that a lot of times people would just pick a random creator name to get around having to count. Like they would be like, I don't know, could be volume 9. I'm going to say Roger Stern. And so we tried to actually reflect on the poll. Did we go over the top a little bit, Connor? Look, you're not wrong. We argued a long time over this. And we tried to find a happy medium that respected all of the hundreds of votes Tigereyes has over the past decade, as well as honoring not making the poll too confusing. So did we pick up probably like a few dozen extra entries from that? Yeah, but you should have seen what happened before Tyler and Omar reined me in. I had 4 volumes of Patsy Walker and Patsy and Hetty and Millie the model, and they're like, Christ, get it together. So it could have been much worse.
I think
that's okay, but that's okay to think ahead like that, though. I just think, just condensing the list down. I think some of it had to go. So in the end, you did get to keep a lot of it, and some of it did go.
Well, Marvel we want to make sure that you can vote for things that matter, right? Like if we put like a volume 8 of something, 1 through 8, how many votes are 8 going to get? We really tried to like focus on lightning rods, things that people have strong opinions on, things that could get onto the poll that still managed to cover every line and as many issues as possible.
I think it finally came down to, we started at like 900 and culled it down to 623. And we were like, I think we've chopped off enough.
So Thanos was one that had like 4 entries. But a lot of it had already been collected. So I just wrote it. Thanos Road to Annihilation. You can
that's a big one that would make that Modern Cosmic into a 6-volume set.
You can curate this as much, like, have the stuff in there by Giffen, have the stuff in there like the Marvel The End and all that stuff that has never been collected. Well, they are collecting the Marvel The End in The End omnibus. But I feel like all the Thanos stories that people wanted would be collected in something like this. So when we have enough material for more Thanos, which I'm sure will happen, because we still have like the Teeny Howard stuff. We already have Thanos by Jeff Lemire in another slide, so I didn't go over that one. I think Peter, you moved it. Somebody moved it to Guardians of the Galaxy, I think.
Yeah.
But that's okay. So Thanos is here. So he's got a couple of omnis. Just make sure, remember, these are in alphabetical order. Tigereyes, I'm gonna let you talk about Thor and Asgard because you're a fan of Storm. And technically she wields the hammer.
All right. Beta Ray Bill Omnibus, Thor DeFalco. How many omnibus would that be? Would it just be 1?
Oh, DeFalco and Friends? Oh,
Ooh.
no, that would be like 3 or...
Oh, geez.
Well, if you put Thunderstrike in there.
Right. You could pack...
that's its own thing.
Yeah, that would be 4, probably.
It's a lot. Yeah. And then Mighty Thor Volume 5, who would that be created be? Or that just...
Oh, this was me, by the way, that curated this, that went, okay, I could go the Peter route and map out Thor by DeFalco for everybody, or I can just be like, I need to move on to another character. I'm going to put Thor about the Falco and Friends in one vote, and then we can worry about volume 2. Thunderstrike by DeFalco I kept separate because there's no way if you do have one volume, it's going to be in there. Valkyrie, the Fearless Defender by Cullen Bunn series. I figured that would be its own Omni, and then the Jane Foster stuff. So you have the Jason Aaron, Al Ewing, and Torunn Grumbeck stuff collected in that book. And Thor to the Classic stuff, volume 5. So, yeah. And many different years of collecting the Beta Ray Bill character, by the way. The Ultimate Marvel. Who's the biggest fanboy here for Ultimate Marvel? Which one of the 4 of us? Taylor.
All right.
Talk to me about Ultimate Marvel comics.
I think the one I had the most experience with in this is the Fantastic Four run, which was I guess there was 6 oversized hardcovers for that. So I guess you packed that into 2 omnibuses. Ultimate Elektra, Ultimate Iron Man. I do remember in the Ultimate era they had like those short mini series, so that'd be like kind of a companion volume to all the other Ultimate omnibuses we already have. Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 5 is a much talked about one because we have the death of Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man omnibus. How would this one be mapped? Nobody really can agree on one idea, but maybe Marvel will have one. And maybe if you want a nice subsequent volume, Volume 5 on your shelf, vote for this one. Ultimate X-Men Volume 3. We already have volumes 1 and 2 coming out of that. Yeah, I think that's where my experience lies on this. Some of those I haven't read before.
Okay. Ultimatum.
Yeah, that'd be a huge one too. I mean, I don't know how many people are fans.
That's one that surprised me that was never collected, honestly.
Right. It would be one big event.
I mean, yeah, it would have Ultimates 3, Ultimatum, and all the little Ultimatum mini series and stuff. Yeah. Ultimate X-Men 3 to wrap up the series. We still need like Ultimate X afterwards, and the Ultimate Comics X-Men, which would be a volume 4. Cataclysm in the end that can be put together. Ultimate Comics, the Ultimates. I want to say no, this is the stuff that happens after and during or right before and right after the Jonathan Hickman stuff.
Oh yes, yeah.
Venom and the Symbiotes. It's my buddy Phil Owens in the chat. I don't know if he's in the chat. Thoughts and prayers to that guy. If he is watching right now. Carnage Volume 2. Almost feel like we need a Carnage Volume 0, but maybe another day. Venom by Al Ewing. Venom Agent. This is the one we were thinking. It would probably be 2 Omnis for Agent Venomnibus. And then Venom into the Venomverse. That's the Costa and Bunn stuff with the crossover with the X-Men Blue. And then Venomnibus Volume 4 collecting the Toxin and Anti-Venom storylines. So going back to the Venomnibus word. So Peter, was it you or Dom that mapped this one? I think.
It was me, and it was a lot of back and forth. I think that Space Knight one is probably the most controversial. Well, there's a couple controversial things. Space Knight is not really long enough, but you would probably also include the Clintar arc from Bendis's Guardians of the Galaxy to fill it out. The Agent Venom probably could be 2 books. In fact, I thought we did make it 2 books because it is 2 books on the actual poll. You will find because once we counted the issues, there's just no way to get it all into one. And then Venomnibus 4 is not just Toxin and Anti-Venom. There is some actual Venom stuff, but it's not enough if you just did the Venom stuff because it's not a real word. Venomnibus 3 actually pushes really far, and there wasn't enough for 4 if you just took things officially called Venom. But if you follow his Eddie Brock arcs in ASM, there would definitely be enough material. So we did light mapping if we needed to like confirm something could exist, but we never sat down and played the mapping game of like how many issues would equal how many pages, how many covers. We just kind of broadly made sure it wasn't too small for an omnibus or too long for an omnibus. We've seen some really big ones, so we know they can go as high as like 55-ish issues. So like ballpark, if it looked like it could be around 50 issues, it could still be one. If it looked like it was going to go more than 50, we split it into 2.
I think there's some good calls in here. And also, you know, during the Space Knight era is when he was with the Guardians for a while too. Okay, so to explain again, in case you're just stumbling through here, are these official releases that will be coming out to print? I'm sorry I missed the first part. No. every year for the last 12 years, the gentleman up above, Tigereyes, has been taking this secret ballot poll where you get to vote for your most wanted Marvel Omnibus. You get 10 votes. So we are simplifying things this year by having you just vote instead of emailing in your vote. Your vote. We're making it easier, so we just have a link you go to and you vote. And I'm going to show everybody how to vote in a little while. I'm going to take the top 20 and email them to Marvel. And whatever they decide to do with that list is up to them. But it's always been for fun. It's always been to see what fans really want. And this year, it just got to be so massive. I think year after year, it just kept growing and growing and growing. So we just wanted to make it easier for him and for you all, too, to partake in this. Because there's a lot of people new to this world of collecting that they, have no idea what is needed or what hasn't been collected. So that's kind of like for people that are just trickling in. And then we have Wolverine, Benjamin Percy, whenever he's done, Greg Rucka, classic stuff. You can throw the Elektra stuff in there. Wolverine by Jeff Loeb, Origins, and Wolverine Volume 6, a continuation of the Larry Hama Ogre Wolverine era. Wolverine Death of Wolverine Companion. I like that this includes the Wolverines 2015 series. So it's almost like, what is it, the Hunt for Wolverine or whatever it was called?
Stop doing that. It doesn't include Hunt.
Oh, I keep saying that, didn't I? Oh, that's right. Wolverine First Class, and then you have a Hunt and Return for Wolverine. And Oh Man Logan, Bendis and Lemire, and then by Ed Brisson, which will, I assume, also include Dead Man Logan.
Making a note right now to reflect that.
None of the silly series. Wolverine by Loeb was awful. Logan Wayne. There's a lot of awful stuff on this list, but it's because you all want it, so it's added. To each their own. But I actually agree with Logan Wayne. That book was awful. Pretty artwork, though. Pretty artwork. Ready for somebody was asking earlier, is X-Men going to be its own stream? Woo! It definitely could be.
It could be.
All right, Peter, are you ready? Let me know when you're ready, buddy.
I'm ready. Chat, y'all. I'll see your comments after because it's going to take a lot of focus.
I'll take care of the chat, and let's talk about X-Men.
All right, let's go, folks.
Hold on to your potatoes.
So look, you know that when it comes to mapping my X, we take it very, very seriously here. So I'm just going to go down and give you a 2-second explanation of everything. X-Men First Class, all of those throwback books of X-Men First Class and Uncanny X-Men First Class, great on me. X-Men Forever, that is the alternate history that Claremont established of what would have happened after he left if he stayed on the title in the 90s. There are also 2 Forever series by Simonson. They could be in there too. House of X, Powers of X speaks for itself. Yes, we already have an oversized hardcover, but could it include some other material? I don't know. It's not an omnibus yet, so it's on the list because we know people are going to ask. X-Men Magneto War comes before the X-Men Ages of Apocalypse omnibus. It would fill in a pretty big chunk. X-Men
Mapping my X-Men alive. Love it.
X-Men Marvel Now by Bendis would be both titles. There's another one of those very few things that we gave you 2 ways to vote for because people have very conflicting opinions. This would have both All New X-Men and Uncanny X-Men. X-Men Resurrection, we would have Astonishing. That's actually a pretty short run, so maybe something else would fit in that, but we know people are going to ask. We put Resurrection, Blue and Gold in separate books. They're 36 issues each. Each one of them could stand alone. X-Men Rise of Apocalypse, we could probably call that AKA Apocalypse the early years, just like everything kind of old Apocalypse all in one book. X-Men Second Coming could just be the Second Coming main crossover as well as the Second Coming Revelations crossover book, but it also could just be a little bit more broadly Matt Fraction Volume 2. You probably could also get all of the Nation X oversized hardcover in there, and then it would be a complete Matt Fraction Volume 2. So basically consider both of those votes for the same thing. Silver Age Volume 3, we struggled really lengthy into the night on what to call this, but it's basically the Lost Year stuff. Some of you also know it as Always Dark Before the Dawn. Hopefully this communicated what you'd be voting for. X-Men The Age of X-Men is the 2019 complete event with all of its tie-ins. X-Men The Messiah Trilogy is not a book that should exist, but you've all bullied me into putting it on the poll. It would be the Messiah Complex, the completely unrelated Messiah War, and Second Coming. Then we get into actual runs of Uncanny X-Men. Kieran Gillen, that's self-explanatory. It is actually, that should say 2011 to 2012.
No, 2011.
Yeah, it starts in Uncanny X-Men and Volume 1, and then it continues to Volume 2. Bendis is self-explanatory. This would just be his Uncanny X-Men, not All New X-Men. Bunn is self-explanatory. No, this would not include Magneto, although if you want to imagine that it could, feel free. We have that on a separate entry. Uncanny X-Men 2018 by Rosenberg et al. Would include all of Rosenberg's lead-in minis, which if you've been watching the OmniDogs channel, we recently put in order on his shelf. Omar, let's keep going.
Omar.
All right, I'm gonna go back actually.
Oh, go back.
I have
please,
no
please.
idea how much I wanted to just call this Buncanny X-Men Omnibus, but I'm like, oh, that would screw up everything. So when I was going back and re-editing things, I thought about it. So
You're such a freak.
it makes sense. The Buncanny X-Men Omnibus. All right. Really quick, when and if these books ever get made, don't forget to check out our sponsor in the EU. They're based out of Berlin, Germany, and that is waltzcomicshop.com. Flat shipping rates for 12 euros for all EU countries and bulletproof packaging. And if you use the code nearmintcon, all one word at the checkout, you get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order of over 40 euros or more. That's when and if these books ever come out. You can pre-order them there. Waltz Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. I wanted to go back to this because I skipped it on purpose because this is something people have been bugging us about, and bugging in a great way because it makes my brain start thinking, how would this be mapped? So I'm sure we'll have a Map My X on just Krakoa because that's going to be a 5-hour event. So, Peter, do you need a breath?
Hold on, I'm fixing one thing that people mentioned.
Okay.
And then I will be back.
We don't know how. Oh, Ting. Thank you. Sorry about that, David. Sorry about that. Ting. Thank you for that, Bart. And everybody that has said it. So we don't know how these are going to be mapped. We don't know how they're going to come out, and this is just our best guess as to how they're going to. Ting, damn it! Yes, sorry about that. How they're going to release these books. It is our best guess.
Yeah.
How?
It's not a mapping show. We went with the kind of things that people suggested previously. This is the time that we did put volume 1, 2, and 3 for things because we know those anthologies would fill 3 volumes and we know people are passionate about them. And we know that this has double dips. Kieran Gillen Immortal X-Men would probably be covered in part in an anthology. X-Men by Jaron Dugan would be an anthology. But this is a time where some people have strong feelings that they want an anthologized version of Krakoa. Some people have strong feelings that they want a non-anthologized version of Krakoa. So any run that was long enough to call its own thing went to anthologies. If you're already asking, where's Marauders? It's not officially titled X-Men, so it is on one of the next slides. These only had books that at some point had an X-Men title on them. I guess Simon Spurrier cheated a little bit.
And that's where you're going to find Amazing X-Men. Can
I ask Peter and Omar your opinion on this? Because you're both the experts in my life that I know. So now that we're done with Krakoa, I stopped reading, I think around DomofX, what would be volume 3, I guess, is where I kind of fell off. As a reading experience, would you like the idea of this anthology where it collects every single issue in the anthology format? Or do you think now that we're done with Krakoa as a reading experience, it would be better to kind of pick and choose like X-Men, Marauders, like that kind of thing?
I think when it started, it was a great way to catch up to speed on things that were coming out monthly. Once they started getting into about a year to the Krakoa era, they kind of started doing their own thing. I think if it's mapped correctly, if you have somebody in there that can put story arcs together, and I think they may have to map around some events, it could definitely be done in an anthology series. Because not like saying collecting X-Force 16 and then you jump over to Wolverine 16 and then you go to X-Men 16, but collecting story arcs, kind of like the way these oversized hardcovers were mapped, like the Fall of the Mutants or Mutant Massacre or the Inferno Prologue. Inferno Prologue is a perfect example, I think, of how you could do a proper mapping of something like the anthology series. And that's just the way my brain works. That way I don't have to worry about getting something that I'm missing, and nothing gets left behind. If you're a fan of things like Fallen Angels, then it doesn't get left behind. It gets put into one of these. I don't know how Tigereyes or Crisis, Peter, feels about that, but that's just my way of thinking. Like, nothing gets left behind, everything gets collected, but it has to be like put in a good reading order experience. That's the point of, to me, collected editions, not collecting issue 1s and then we move on to issue 2s. Because what's the point of that? Because that's the experience when you're doing it, when you're going to the comic shop weekly or monthly. To me, it has to be mapped perfectly. Like, let's finish this story arc because this takes place before this story arc. It's overwhelming, but I think it can be done, and it'll make, the payoff will be, giving somebody a good reading experience. Peter, what do you think? Tigereyes, what are your thoughts?
I would say that one thing that won't work is just trying to do the omnibuses as all of those anthology books glued together, because they pretty much just took 1 or 2 months of issues. I would agree with Omar that there has to be a little bit more finessing to put arcs together. I think it would be really jarring to read like 1 issue of Fallen Angels and then 1 issue of X-Men and 1 issue of Marauder, which is how the anthology books were laid out. But I think if you remember, there was an Ultimate Marvel omnibus that had the beginning arcs of Ultimate X-Men and Ultimate Fantastic Four. I think these omnibuses could probably work that way. I think if you want to see all of Krakoa collected, there's probably a better chance to see it happen in the anthologies than to have them do all the big tentpole books and then do a companion. But you never know. It's X-Men. It's going to sell. X-Men are about to have a really big decade. So I think vote for the thing you want to read the most, and we'll see how it shakes out. This might be a good indicator to Marvel, honestly, if there's more appetite for the anthologies or for the single books. So make your voice heard.
I may take an additional poll to that, because William brings up a good point. Like, why can't there be 2 lines of Uncanny? I think if you do, okay, I'll be honest, William. If they start doing 2 lines of Uncanny during this era, or like Uncanny and anthologies, I think that's just bound to piss people off. And I'll tell you why. Because people will immediately say, well, that's just using up a slot they could have used for Doctor Strange Omnibus Volume 3. And I've been waiting freaking years for that book. I just know the backlash that will come if they are like, hey, we're going to give people 2 options. I mean, it'd be nice for the wallets, of course. I agree with that. But also, I can see where people would be upset. Like, X-Men is going to take up 2 slots of the same damn book, and I can't get my Nth Man and Omnibus. Oh, that's just me. Sorry. But you get the idea, right? Like, it's almost too much. Because then you have crazy bastards that want it all. Like, I'll get the X-Men by Jonathan Hickman and get the anthology. Tigereyes, what about you? What have you been seeing lurking in the Masterworks forums? Like, what do you all think over there? You're as the representative of the Marvel Masterworks,
brother. I'm just gonna speak for myself. Anthology is the way to go. I agree with both of you. I don't want a Marauder solo series. I need a flow of story.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Peter.
Oh gosh, there's more. Okay, Uncanny X-Men by Ed Brubaker. Yes, we know some of this is covered in other books already, including The Road to the War of Kings, but some people want it as a book. If you want it, vote for it. We didn't put in an exact mapping. Use your imagination. Would it include Deadly Genesis? Maybe. Would it include both the Extremix arc before Messiah Complex and the arc after Messiah Complex where he's co-writing with Fraction? Maybe. It's whatever you want it to be. Look into it and see yourself. X-Men by Joe Casey could also be called X-Core or New X-Men Companion because it ran alongside the beginning of Grant Morrison's run. Uncanny X-Men by Matt Fraction clearly could not be all of Matt Fraction. It probably stops at Messiah Complex, but again, we did not, or I'm sorry, Second Coming. But we didn't want to overtune these and get people arguing about mapping. We tried to give them broad, easily identifiable names. Uncanny X-Men Volume 6 would be the next one that's not announced. Of course, we could go on and on to more volumes, but we tried to keep it focused. New Age by Chris Claremont is when he returns with Alan Davis and Chris Baccello doing art. X-Men Inferno Aftermath, Omar bullied me into adding to the list because some people want to see the event line continue in a way that is distinct from Claremont and Lee. And Omar spoke for the voice of the Minties, and he said, "Crisis, don't make the Minties fall out of their favor. You can add this, and they'll know that you're on their side." So that's why it's on there.
Because I know how people are. They're like, wait a minute, we've talked about this. We know they're doing a prelude to the massacre. They have to do an Inferno Aftermath to collect Judgment War. I'm not buying X Factor. So that was the thought process behind that. That was like, we got
Onslaught Aftermath could also be called Trial of Gambit. Mike Carey Volume 1. Again, this is a see what you want to see. Should it just be Legacy? Should it just start at 188? Vote for it if you want the Mike Carey book. Let it be sorted out later. Peter Milligan had a long run on the 1991 Adjectiveless series. Some people just want a Volume 1, just have the Adjectiveless that goes farther than the Claremont Lee Volume 2. Great, vote for it. X-Men 2010. X-Men 2010, we debated way more than the content of this book actually determines if it should actually be one Gitzler book and one Wood book. You're just voting for X-Men 2010. It could be sorted out later. Same for 2013. Brian Wood didn't write all of the book. G. Willow Wilson did an arc at the end. Let's just call it X-Men 2013. X-Men by Chuck Austin speaks for itself. He wrote Uncanny and also in some arcs on adjectiveless X-Men as well.
Yep.
X-Men by Kelly and Siegel also could be called Hunt for Xavier. It's the post Onslaught, Aftermath, pre-Magneto War run of X-Men. Here's Legacy all by itself if you really hate the idea of 188 through 204 being in the same book in it. X-Men Legends was the Krakoa era miniseries that was doing throwback X-Men stories. X-Men Origins would be all of those Origins one-shots, and X-Men Unlimited Volume 1 is for the freaks out there who really need X-Men Unlimited on its own book and have not been satisfied that Marvel has been dutifully collecting every issue of it in each of the X-Men omnibuses as they go on. They're here because Tigereyes knows this. He's seen things. You could see in his eyes. He's seen things. He knows that every one of these books would get voted on by the people who voted on the poll. And we really tried to respect a lot of good mapping work that have happened over the past 11 years.
And now you know why we are okay with 10 votes. People are like, 10 votes.
I want to address something in the chat. I want to hear this from the mouth of Tigereyes. People in the chat keep saying, X-Men's going to be all the top 20. What are you freaks doing? Tigereyes, is X-Men ever all of the top 20?
Negative. I mean,
Negative.
The last several years, it's been, or do we want to say? It doesn't matter, right? And the Senti, Daredevil.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I wonder if
even before that, the top
we
3 was always X-Men, New Mutants, Hulk. X-Men, New Mutants, Hulk. Every single year, that was how it went. So just because there's X-Men fans out there, there are passionate fans of the other stuff. Tigereyes, have you ever seen the poll be over 50% X-Men on the whole?
I don't even think.
No, it's never happened, folks.
Yeah, it's really interesting how it goes now that we made it easier, where it's a click instead of like, oh, this is a lot of trouble.
Because we have to remember I
don't want to email this guy my vote.
The original source for this was the Marvel Masterworks forum, which I think gears a little bit towards the classic era of Marvel just by the sheer material of Masterworks. So now that we're putting us in front of a different audience, the votes could be very different.
Which potential Omni would be best fit Phalanx Covenant? Oh, that would be its own omnibus. I mean, eventually it would be Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume. Oh my God, why am I doing this? I'm not going to do this right now. 14, 15, something stupid like that. So eventually it will be collected in the ongoing chronological order of X-Men. Edwin, I hope you are feeling better, buddy. I would not use my votes on X-Men because Marvel is going to print them.
There is some game theory involved. There's absolutely game theory involved in this. There is one book on here that I already know, not because I'm Omar, because I just know Marvel already has it planned because it's obvious, but you could vote for it if you want. All right, let's just bang through these X-Men solely.
Wait. I do want to say I love Max, so I do want to say happy birthday. March babies are the best, Max. I don't know if you're watching right now. You shouldn't be. You should be out celebrating. Now, this is the Tigereyes' favorite character.
Is on here. Yes, at the very bottom,
Yes.
X-Men Storm.
Oh.
So look, we know that X-Men fans want an omnibus for every one of them. One that I cut with malice is X-Men Polaris. Why? What the F would you put in that omnibus, you freaks? Okay?
Some of my vote, Peter, you bastard.
Some of these characters, you just have to read X-Men. But there are some characters that have enough of their own material and significant key issues that you could go. So let's go. Cable 1993 Volume 1. That would actually could start in 1992, Blood and Metal. Some people want to see it pulled out from X-Force. Great, vote for it. Cable by Dwayne, last name we never say correctly, Swazernski. That would be the Cable and Hope series. Cable Volume 2, if you were just going chronologically through Cable, would be AKA Jeff Loeb. Cable Volume 3, if you were just going through chronologically through Cable, would be AKA Joe Casey. Could the mapping break it a little bit differently? Maybe, but if you love Joe Casey Cable, now you know what to vote for. Cable, the Ascani Sun would basically be early years Cable. There is an Ascani Sun book out there that already has a lot of this material, but there's more that could be added. It's pretty much every Cable thing that happened before we actually met Cable. Daken Dark Wolverine speaks for itself. He's got a lot of series out there by Rob Williams that could be collected into one. Mutant X Havoc, somebody asked about that earlier. Could you lump it in with the End run of X Factor? No, it would make the book too long. X23 Omnibus Volume. Oh, NYX, for speaking of freaks out there that want it all in one book, there you go. It would be 13 issues. It just made the grade. X23 Omnibus Volume 2 would mostly be Marjorie Liu's X23 that it hasn't hit Omnibus yet. X-Men Nate Gray is 75 issues. You could break it into 2 omnibuses and cover it entirely. X-Men Bishop 1991 to 2001 would have Bishop's initial appearance, his 1994 miniseries, his Bishop XSC miniseries, Bishop and Gambit, and some other key Bishop issues. X-Men Emma Frost. This is one of the ones that you can stare into the void and decide what it means. Does it mean just her 18-issue early years series with those very salacious covers that did not match the interiors? Does it mean key Emma Frost arcs? I say, why not both? But you can decide. X-Men Gambit 1990 to 2001 would be his key appearances and his solo appearances, including all of Gambit by Nicieza. That's only 25 issues. So even adding his miniseries, the Rogue miniseries, and key Gambit issues, you could do it all in one book. There's also Gambit's pretty excellent James Asmus miniseries right before in the beginning of Marvel Now from 2012 to 2013. X-Men Juggernaut would be kind of a greatest hits of Juggernaut. He has had some significant arcs and solo issues. Same for Magic. Magneto, the early years is an omnibus I want really bad. If you read every Magneto appearance chronologically through 1991, it makes a heck of a lot of sense. It would be a great read. We've seen it for Doom. Why not get it for Magneto? Magneto by Cullen Bunn. There it is. Could it be in the same book as Cullen Bunn, Uncanny X-Men? Maybe, but a lot of people are going to be looking for it in the poll on its own. Mystique had a series by Brian K. Vaughan and Sean McKeever that ran, and it's pretty great. That could all be in one book. It could also have things like Mystique and Sabretooth, Mary Shelley Overdrive in it as well, maybe if you want, but this is what it's primarily identified by. X-Men Rogue, the early years, would track Rogue all the way from Avengers Annual 10 through her key Uncanny X-Men issues like 171 and 269, as well as the Rogue miniseries and other significant Rogue issues. I think it'd be a really good read, and people have voted for it in the past. This is not me putting my thumb on the scale. X-Men Rogue and Gambit, the modern omnibus. There's a lot of Rogue and Gambit stuff, both separately. They had their own 12-issue miniseries in the 2003-2004 era. They also had Mr. and Mrs. X. They also had all sorts of things together. Some people just really want a Rogue and Gambit book. I don't think it really makes sense to do before 2001 because that's really just Gambit with Rogue hanging around. I think after she was in the X-Men movie in 2000, her material got a little bit stronger on its own. So that would be a really fun collection. And then finally, X-Men Storm. Assume that is just whatever you want to make it. Any Storm material you think, is it early years? Is it Worlds Apart? Is it all the issues where she does the best feats? I wonder if she's ever done a glass tornado in the comic books. That would be that volume. And we already know it's Tigereyes' #1 vote.
I want to know what Tigereyes would include in that volume.
I mean,
Talk to me, Tigereyes. What would you put in that volume?
Life, Death, Evangelist, Herverse Cyclops, Depowered, Herverse the 3 extraneous Freedom Force without her powers, like the Super Saber, Crimson Commando, Stonewall, her relationship with Black Panther early on, stuff like that.
So you've thought about this before. I love it. Awesome. So thank you so much for doing this. And yes, I see in the chat, some people are like, well, what about this? What about that? There's a lot of what about this and what about that. And maybe next year you all can write it in and we'd be more than happy to add it. Will there be an online poll? This will be like the link that I gave for the reprint poll, Larry. There shouldn't be an email in the description. Did you refresh your computer, your Roku, whatever you're on right now? Like people use Rokus. All right, what is next? X-Men teams where people are like, where's Exiles?
I think this is the last one.
Look at that, Larry. We're almost there. We're almost there. Home stretch, baby.
Sweet baby Cable. Okay, here we go. Cable and X-Force by Dennis Hopeless. That's Marvel Now explains itself. Captain Britain and MI13 by Paul Cornell. Could it have the Wisdom miniseries in it? Quite possibly, explains itself. Excalibur and New Excalibur from 2004 to 2007. Omar said, let's put them together. It's the 14 or 15 issues of pre-House of M Excalibur by Chris Claremont, and then the New Excalibur series, mostly by Chris Claremont after. Excalibur Volume 4 would wrap up the original 1988 volume. It could also be called AKA by Ben Robb. We just got those epic collections. Exiles Volume 1 and 2. Could there be a 3 and 4? Yes, but we told you we tried not to go overboard with overtuning this poll with 3 and 4. Generation X Volume 1 and 2, I expect to see very high in the poll. Thank you. That would be the complete Generation X series from 1994. New Exiles came after the whole Exiles series, and some people like this specifically because it's by Claremont, so we gave it its own entry rather than trying to overtune it and calling it like Exiles Volume 5. New Mutants 2009 by Wells, Abnett, and Landing is a 50-issue run, so that would fit nicely into one omnibus. New Mutants Volume 4 would be the original New Mutants, aka by Rob Liefeld, because it tracks all of his work on the title, some of which still has not been in oversized format. New X-Men Academy X by DeFilippis and Weir includes their lead-in series that was New Mutants, 13 issues. It has been in paperback, never in oversized. Then after that would come New X-Men Academy X by Kyle and Yost. That has all that delicious childhood end stuff that you like. X Factor by Howard Mackey is the end run of X Factor. It'd be a great book all on its own. It's a perfect amount of issues. X Factor by J.M. DeMatteis with DeZago and more basically is what directly follows Peter David's run and runs up to the Age of Apocalypse. Afterwards, Howard Mackey begins. X Factor by Peter David, Volume 4, probably is already going to happen since Marvel's been through 3 of them already, but if you want to put your vote on it, please do. It would include all new X Factor. X Factor, the original X-Men Volume 2, would pick up from issue, I forget if it would be 25 or 27 after that first one that's already been solicited. Might there be a Volume 3? All depends on the mapping. That's not an answer we're here to answer. X-Force by Kyle and Yost, everybody's favorite murder X-Men from 2008 to 2010, has never been omnibused altogether. It's very often on the poll. X-Force Volume 4 would come after X-Force and Cable and X-Force and Deadpool to collect another big swath of their work. Then that would be followed by Volume 5. The reason it's on here is a lot of people vote for this on its own. X-Force Road Trip, that would be Volume 5. Here are some Age of Krakoa books that are not main X-Men titles. Marauders by Duggan and Orlando, that would be in the 30-some issue range. New Mutants, also in the 30-some issue range. X Factor by Leah Williams is only 10 issues, but probably would also include the Trial of Magneto. Age of Krakoa by Teenie Howard, which basically also could be called Age of Krakoa Betsy Braddock, which had to have Excalibur, Realm of X, and Captain Britain. Resurrection Weapon X by Greg Pak ran for over 20 issues. That could all fit into one book. X-Men Revolution Counter X would have the very end of X-Force just before Ecstatics, but also there were Counter X arcs in X-Man and Gen X, so they could be grouped into that as well. Would it double dip from the Gen X Volume 2 volume? Yes. And then X-Men Uncanny X-Men Volume 7. I don't know why it's on this slide rather than the X-Men team slide, just a typo, but we already know that they do 2 Marvel Masterworks per Uncanny X-Men volume, so we figured some people are really rabid and would want to vote for 6 and 7. We put them both on the poll.
Are you okay?
I'm gonna live.
Okay.
Wow, that was impressive.
So this is the end of the slideshow, and it just shows how much work went to creating this. And I saw a couple comments asking if you can write in a vote. I think this year we're not gonna let that happen just because we want the votes to be focused on. I mean, if 620 something options aren't big enough, you're more than welcome to send in submissions for next year.
So I was just thinking about that.
And if you and I'll say something, if you're bouncing, just 1 second, Peter.
All right.
If you're bouncing, no, you're I just want you to save your voice for a second. If you're bouncing in and out of the stream, don't worry, it's in alphabetical order. So if you're like, where's this? And you didn't see it, it should be on the poll whenever we go there. Like people are asking, where's Marvel Noir? And I know that's in there somewhere because I'm the one that edited that one. So again, it's in alphabetical order. It won't be separated by groups. It would be cool to have that option. Maybe one day we'll get there, but right now Google does not let us do it. Can Peter start mapping these things? We'll get there because I have lots of thoughts about the Krakoa era that people want to see. I have lots of thoughts that I want to start bringing back my ex because I miss talking to my friend Peter about the things we're passionate about, but also argue about. And life just doesn't get better than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to review the whole slide because that was 2.5 hours. Thank you so much to Taylor for putting the slides together. They were amazing. What I'm going to do is open up the polls as soon as I show you how to vote, okay? Can somebody time
I have one question before you do.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Do you think at the bottom of the poll, we should just have one open field that says, hey, did we forget your favorite book? This doesn't count as a vote, but let us know for next year.
It's not a bad idea.
So they can write yes or no?
Or they can just say whatever it is.
We can write in the book.
If you're on there and you can add it, I say go for it. Sure.
All right. Give me 10 seconds while you talk about how to vote,
all right,
and I will put it in. But don't make it live until I actually do it.
Where have you been? I'm late. Did anyone else think about Nuff Said Omni or trades with the scripts? Well, in case you don't see it in there, and make sure you look thorough because it's 611. And if you saw how Peter wrote in the X-Men. The X-Men are all done like this. It's like X-Men this, X-Men Uncanny, X-Men Resurrection, different eras. So if you didn't see something, write it into the vote at the very bottom where Peter's doing this. And we'll tally that up, and me and him and whomever can get together to put these together for next year. Have you forgotten? Hey, you forgot Pizza Hut. Nope. Is this Chris? Chris, is that your other account? Okay. Let me know when it's ready, Peter, and I'll share the screen.
Yeah, just major props to Peter and Omar and Dom for culling this list down, because I saw this list at the beginning of the week when I was starting the slideshow, and I was super overwhelmed. So again, thank you guys so much for breaking this list down to what we have.
They want anybody having a panic attack. That's the last thing I want to cause. And it's overwhelming when you're looking at it. But now we have a backbone, so this will be a lot easier next year. Just a little late, but that's okay. You can always rewind, or you're about to watch the most important part, and that is how to vote. There will not be any mail-in votes this year because that killed Tigereyes last year. Look at him. His soul has gone. He has no soul anymore. you all broke him last year. So this is what
everybody mail in your votes to the PO box at Omar's PO box address.
Yeah, I will forward them right to Taylor's address. Omar already had a panic attack for all of us. No, I just had lack of sleep. I don't really panic attack. I just drink. This is going to be a fun vote. So yeah, spread the word. Let others let them know. Damn, y'all broke Tigereyes. Y'all broke his soul and spirits last year. And thank you for all of the years that you've been doing this, man, by yourself. So I'm glad that we can help out and expand on that. Thank you to all the people that suggested things. Thank you again to James and Dom. I can't say thank you enough. They're not here right now, but they're the unsung heroes of these lists. Sure. And thank you to all the people on the Marvel Masterworks forums for the years of doing this, on the Facebook groups whenever we started handling it, and all the people in Reddit that suggested things. 10 votes per person. Pete, let me know when you're ready. Omar, you're vegetarian for Lent. Yep, I'm vegetarian for Lent, my brother. It's been tough. Got one more week, then meat's back on the menu, boys. All right. Let me stop sharing this. Let me remove this. And now I'm going to share my other screen here. So we're done with the slides. 2.5 hours. That
was pretty. I think 2.5 hours was a conservative estimate for that. I don't know, Taylor. What do you think?
That's what I was thinking mentally. Yeah, I was like, how long is this going to be? 2.5 hours sounds. I mean, to cover 600 plus books, I think it's pretty efficient.
We got this. I got 15 more minutes. I gotta go and read a crappy book for my book club on Patreon. All right, sharing the screen. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be able to look at the results like we have with the reprints, because it's gonna be kicking back all kinds of.
Yeah, it's gonna be a nightmare. Okay, so as soon as I'm done showing you, refresh this YouTube video. Don't forget to hit that like button, though. And go to the link that I put in the YouTube video that will take you right here to this website where you can vote. You have to sign in right here. So you can, I'm just .com, generic mail.com. So you put in your email address. We're not going to mail you anything or subscribe you to anything. So what this is you get the votes right here. You're seeing 1 through 7, but they are all there. You just have to go across. Remember that. So if you're on your phone, if you're on a laptop, I don't know if you can vote for your Xbox One or your PlayStation 2 or your Sega Saturn internet thing. What the hell was that called? The Netlink. But your first vote gets 10 points. Your second vote gets 9 points. Your third vote gets 8 points. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of smart people here. You all are readers. You can guess how much your 10th vote gets.
Omar just voted for Alf. Everybody see it.
Son of a... Did I really?
Yep, your 5th vote.
That is my life. Okay, you all get the idea. It is weighted voting, meaning your first vote gets the most points when it comes to this. So again, don't forget to slide across to put your vote down for all 10. It's a lot. I would say
this is a big page. It takes a little while to load. If you can do it on a computer or even a tablet rather than a phone, that would be my personal advice from having tested it. It's going to be a lot for a screen of a phone. I'm just telling you now.
You're scrolling down a lot for this thing.
Listen, you're going to be scrolling down a lot. If you can't find something, the Control F or Command F are going to be your friends if you're looking for a book. do not, the most important part, do not forget to come all the way down here. And I mean all the way down here.
You got to make your vote official. So don't forget the step.
Frosted Flakes, you have to answer this to make sure.
Oh no, where's the new question?
It's not there?
Fudge. Okay, well, if all
No. Stop. Wait, give me 1 second, Peter. Let me do something.
Have you not reloaded recently? Because
No, why would you question that? Of course
I'm just wondering, because I did that means the corrections wouldn't be in there either.
But what's the answer? What are Frosted Flakes?
Everybody knows they're grape, right?
But if people like that don't live in America are like, what the hell are Frosted Flakes?
Tony the Tiger.
Okay, so go all the way down to the bottom. And if we missed any of your favorite book, write it here. Okay? Then you can answer Frosted Flakes are or whatever you want to write.
We can't see it on the screen.
We can't see it anymore. Keep scrolling.
Am I not sharing it?
You are, but you haven't.
It's just like frozen image.
Weird. I'm seeing it on my screen, so let me remove that. That's really strange.
It was frozen on the X-Men section. Hopefully you're not taking this clip for your short.
Damn it. I forgot about the short. Oh, hold on a second.
Just start it clean from here, baby. Take two.
You can film the short after your book club. It doesn't have to be right away.
I ain't got no time today. So
well, that's fine. Whenever there is a short with the instructions, somebody's coming in late, we'll record it and I'll share it on social media.
I'll just go ahead and do it here. Okay. So we'll start over from scratch. Sorry to get everybody all bothered. I don't know why it froze though. Okay. Is it moving now for everybody?
Yes.
Right. Take two.
Okay. So take two. This is how you vote. You go to the link in the description of the video, nearmintcon@gmail.com. You vote for your first, your second choice, your third choice, your fourth choice. This was God's gift to me. Your fifth choice, your sixth choice. Do not forget to slide to the right-hand side because that's where choices 6, 7, or 7, 8, 9, and 10, depending on how big your screen is, of course. And remember, it's weighted voting. So your first choice gets 10 points. Your second choice gets 9. Your third choice gets 8. And your 10th choice gets 1. You guys are smart people. You all are readers. I'm repeating myself because this is going to be a short. And in case, most important part, go all the way to the bottom. In case we missed any of the books, you write in Super Pro. But I think Super Pro was in there. Just in case, and then Frosted Flakes are whatever you want to say. I don't get this reference. I'm from Peru. We didn't have that. What is your name on YouTube? This is important. You have to fill something in here. This is all to make sure you're not a bot. Stay minty and hit submit, and that is how it is done. I am officially kicking off this year's. Actually, you know what, Tigereyes? Why don't you go ahead and say it? What are you kick it off, baby? You kick it off. What are we kicking off, man?
Year 12, man. Let's go.
All right, year 12, man of many words. Okay. Refresh this video, this YouTube video right now, and go in the link. It's under how it works. Go here, you go on the link, and you go and vote.
And how long do these people have to vote, Omar?
It's also in the instructions of the description of the video. The voting ends Friday, April 5th at midnight. I'm going to keep it open more than I usually do with the reprints because it's a lot of choices, right? Maybe somebody already has their crap together and they're like, man, I've been ready to vote all year. But anybody new to this, it's overwhelming. There's a lot of books out there, and 10 choices, means that they can think about it for a while. So I'm going to leave it open until April 5th at midnight Eastern time. So there you go. Go and vote for whatever you want to. And share the link, share the video. Doesn't matter. Woo! Goodness.
This is for the whole internet. It started out on the Marvel Masterworks board, and then by kind of sharing, we had it on the CBR board. Then it was on Riley's Omnibus Facebook group. Everybody can vote. Share it to all of your friends, even in real life, who like omnibuses. We just want each person to vote once. But if you have a whole group of secret NFL Super Pro fans on a list somewhere that you're still communicating by, I don't know, messenger pigeon, send those pigeons out and tell them to get on to vote for NFL Super Pro.
And please let me know if the website is working for everybody. I forgot that was the other thing. I didn't know if the link is okay. It's working. The more I share, the more chance my book doesn't win. Yeah, you better share, Ryan. I'll make sure your dumb book doesn't win.
Anything anybody want to fight for? Talk up.
what do I want? What do we want print? I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see this year, right? This is the first year we are officially doing it through the channel. Last year, I remember kicking it off with you, but it wasn't this easy to vote, right? It was people having to write it in, write you an email. So do not forget to scroll right. Do not forget to scroll right to get your 7, 8, 9, and 10, depending on how big your screen is. Maybe you're one of these people that has a 32-inch monitor. You got them all. I'm curious how you all are voting.
I've got a list here. I think I've culled it down to 17. I'll probably put my vote in later this week. As I did say, though, my number one vote's going to be Rampaging Hulk. I think it'd be such a cool omnibus. Probably be 2 volumes. And then Marvel Western by Jack Kirby. I love Jack Kirby. He's my favorite artist of all time. I'd love to see any more Jack Kirby omnibuses we can get, but I think that would be a really cool one because it's an under-collected era of Jack Kirby.
What about you, Tigereyes? You want that Storm omnibus? Is that your number one? Would you say that's your number one?
It is not my number one.
Really?
I tend to like one and done omnibus, and also just more like. So I would probably throw Agents of Atlas in there. Incredible Hercules, and then I like the Crossgen series Ruse a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, so stuff like that.
I like these choices. My buddy Peter. What do you get?
You know,
what do you want?
My number one, as Tigereyes could validate from his email archives, has always been Dazzler. So I'm a person without a poll this year. I probably am going to vote pretty high on Onslaught Aftermath. I really would like us to see us get all the way to Grant Morrison completely in oversized format. So that's the next book off the cab, basically. And I don't know. I'm a big one and done fan too. I'm a big one and done fan for anything that could get all in one. That's like a 70s or 80s book. So Darkhawk, Sleepwalker. I'm absolutely going to buy a Spider-Woman omnibus, so that would probably be in my top 10. Anything where we could get a whole character's 50-issue series into one book, and it's not like picky choosy, one issue here, one issue there, but it's like a hunk of book. To me, that is the most fun to vote for. Alpha Flight Volume 2 as well. That'll actually be my number one vote. No question.
That's a good one.
Alpha Flight Volume 2.
We will be doing a DC version, but first we have to do the DC reprint poll. The DC version might take us a little bit longer to build. That we don't have to be like, hey, let's set it on this date. We'll talk about that behind the scenes, but I promise we're gonna do this for DC as well, because even though it was nerve-wracking and exhausting and stressful at times, it was a lot of fun to get to work with my friends. I think I'm gonna go with Akira. That's my number one choice.
Wow. Left field.
I mean, Lord, anything is possible with Micronauts and ROM, so anything is possible. Deals can be made. Promises can be broken.
I would definitely, like, I've got the box set right here actually, but I would definitely buy the colored versions as well. Like, that'd be amazing. Would they probably 2 omnibuses? I don't think they could fit that into maybe 3. How many would that be?
Oh, Akira, 37 issues. That's 2 omnis. But I mean, if I don't know what they would have the rights to. It's so hard to map that one for me because it just breaks my heart to think about. Because I was like, there's no way they're gonna do this ever.
Hey, we thought that about ROM. We thought that about Micronauts, like you said, Godzilla. We thought that about DC versus Marvel. Like, this year has shown us that anything is possible in this game.
Remember to scroll to the right. If you're only seeing 8 slots, hit that right key. If you're on your phone, that's why I told people, that's why I was making that suggestion, like, always scroll to the right to see the rest. Sorry.
And to Peter's point, it might be easier to do on a laptop or a tablet.
Maybe, I don't know. Have you all tried to turn your phone like this, like landscape, instead of like?
Oh, you could do that.
What do you mean? What? I don't know if you have an iPhone. Are you kidding me? I know you're still rage.
You're just saying that like as if it's like this new phenomenon. Like, have you ever turned your phone sideways?
You know what, Taylor, I've had enough of your crap. That feels good. I haven't done that in a minute. Okay. All right.
Done that to me.
Done. Go Team Excalibur. Go vote for whatever you want. Wow, you're done. Whatever you guys want, go and vote. It's 1 vote per person. Please keep that in mind. Don't try to come in here with different email addresses. We've gotten really good at, noticing fake accounts. Voting for the same book.
Don't make these guys.
And honestly, this is for fun, right? So don't think that, okay, he's going to show this to Marvel. I got to make sure my book gets in. It's going to be more like, hey, David, this is the stuff that, we took a poll and people are interested in. Tigereyes has been doing this for 12 years. So it's going to be really cool. Your dog, no, he doesn't get a vote. Wait, does he pay taxes?
Don't make extra work for
Does he have a
James,
YouTube
James
channel?
and Omar. James and Omar will find the extra accounts and get them out of there, but like, don't make extra work for him.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun just to see what people really want, right? I mean, if you got a wife, you got a lady, a dude that doesn't really get into comics, and you're like, hey, go and vote for that. Sure, that's okay, right? But if it's like 30 of the same votes from the same IP, like that's kind of crazy. Monolith, the story about Road to Onslaught, I'm just waiting on confirmation from Marvel. I can't say anything yet. It might be 2 Omnis. Perhaps.
What is this madness?
Sounds like a future episode of Matt My Ex.
It's I think there were more things that they just kept finding and people kept suggesting, so I think there's probably enough for 2. Wow, Larry, I'm surprised Larry's done. Larry, I'm just curious, what was your number 1? Just out of curiosity. Mantlo?
I'd love to see Larry's list. Larry and I think we align a lot in our interest in comics. So I'd love to see Larry's whole list. Larry, make a video on your YouTube channel of your ballot. I'd like to see it.
Can't forget Mantlo's Alpha Flight. I am curious what this year's going to be like. Let me see if it doesn't break the internet trying to get in here and see what it looks like right now live.
I'd just like to see how many votes live total, if we could. You don't have to. You don't have to scroll through. That's going to be madness.
It's woo.
It was hard enough with the reprint poll, and that was less options and less votes.
Okay, so stop it. Stop. Wait, sorry, my computer's just like, my goodness. It looks like we've got 19 votes so far.
It takes some thought. They haven't even scrolled to the bottom of the list yet. Yeah.
They have more votes to make. They have more thought to put into it. Yeah. More choices.
Hold on a second. Sorry about that. What is your name on YouTube? But it's not showing me the books. Oh, people are writing in some of the books we missed, though, so that's good. Okay, I see the books now. Sorry, it's just taking such a long time to load. Okay, I think I'm in there, I believe. Let me hide people's emails and scroll here. Let me just share. So we got 21 votes in so far, right? For all of this. It just took a long time to load. But people are just taking their time, which is completely cool.
That's why you're giving them 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, right? Something like that. Tigereyes, has there ever been a surprise to you in any of these polls that you've done?
I guess a lot of the licensed stuff early on, like Conan.
So as you can see, there's 10 votes, and they're all color-coded. So your first vote is blue right here. So it looks like 2 people have chosen 2001: A Space Odyssey as their first choice. And I'm not calling anybody out. You all vote for however you want to. So anytime somebody responds, it just slides back over here. So you all vote for however you want to. Don't feel bullied by the chat that wants you to vote for whatever character they like. Vote with your heart.
What do we miss there? Scroll down. We got X-Files, Men in Black. I see that.
It's loading. It takes a long time.
Cage, Nightcrawler.
Cage 1992 series. That's a Luke Cage stuff.
I know I made a listing for that, y'all.
It's
I'm going.
Hold on. Kazar, the Golden Age. That's a different Kazar too.
Great Lakes Avengers.
Is there enough material for Great Lake Avengers?
I don't know.
We were debating in the chat.
Yeah,
there's quite enough. It's like 30-something issues, so maybe.
I can't see Black Widow by Mark Waid. It's called Black Widow Modern Omnibus. I think Peter even put the names of the creators in parentheses if you look. Or I thought, no, wait, I did. I put Waid and all the other creators. So it should be in there.
I like some of Robert's votes there. Nice.
Ignore
Luke
Omar.
Cage 1992 is in there. It's called Luke Cage Second Chances. It has 1992 through 1993. The Control F is your friend on this thing, I promise.
Yes.
The Black Widow Modern Omnibus does not say all of the creator names on it, but it says the year range, and that year range overlaps Waid on the run, so clearly it could include Nightcrawler's a good one. We probably should have included it. Good call.
Oh, because it's got the Claremont stuff. We'll include it next year. But you know, it's there was just so much, and running on fumes by the end. Oh, whew. But you know, it was good because I got to hang out with my friends for a while. Omar, what did you call the Niciesa era of X-Men? X-Men by Niciesa. Logan. I think something that would help for the future is when you vote, a summary of your votes pops up at the end of the form to make it easier for you to see your voted 10. I missed 2 on the reprint poll. Oh yeah. Just because you're given 10 chances or 10 votes doesn't mean that you have to use them. So make sure you use them. Unless you only want like 2 books, right? Then that's up to you. Let me stop sharing this. Oh, God. Do you remember the timestamp when I said I'm going to clip this? Whew. Okay. I got to go and read Trouble in 30 minutes. I think I got this.
Oh, my goodness.
I
Why?
know. Because my Patreons want me to suffer, apparently.
And someone sent a whole case of books of them.
I don't know if Bruce is watching or not. But at this moment, I do want to thank the panel, and I want to thank everybody for watching. Hit that like button, please. When these books ever come out, check out Cheap Graphic Novels here in America. So they have books up to 50% off, free shipping on your next order after your first one, if you use the code Near Mint Condition at the checkout. But before I sign off, I just want these wonderful people to let them tell you a little bit about themselves. Who are you folks?
I'll go first, guys. My name is Taylor of Taylor Talks Comics. I got a YouTube channel called Taylor Talks Comics. Go subscribe. I'm also the Near Mint Condition social media guy. So if you talk to the Near Mint Condition accounts, you're talking to me.
Absolutely. Right above him is that gentleman named Tigereyes, which the poll is named after. You'll see it in the title of the video. It's what we've always referred to as the Tigereyes poll, but so many people were confused. We started calling it it's the most wanted Marvel Omnibus poll, but Tigereyes is just the name we've always called it. So who are you, sir?
I don't have any social media accounts. It's a regular job.
A man after my own heart. I love it.
And I can't wait to see the results and go over them.
Awesome. And to his right.
Hello, everybody. I am Crisis with a K. I am so honored to be a part of this. This is truly my comic book Super Bowl. It is my national holiday. I look forward to this every year. I've written about it and participated in it so many times. So to get to be on here with Tigereyes is just like, it's ridiculous to me. Absolutely ridiculous that I get to be involved in this. And I really hope I did you all right with all of the options on the poll. You can find me at crushingcrisis.com, where I write about this kind of stuff all the time and have guides to this kind of stuff in terms of finding the books that you want by the characters that you want in the order that you want to read them.
And thank you for being here. Seriously, all of you. It made it so much fun and easier to just go through and explain all the rules. Thank you all so much for watching. I am the Uncanny Omar, and this is Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. We will also be doing something similar for the DC Omnibus and Absolute reprints, and something very similar sometime for the DC Most Wanted Omnis. So keep an eye on the channel. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button on the way out, please. That goes a long way for us. I think that's, I don't know. I'm doing something tomorrow. I'm interviewing Daniel Warren Johnson at 5:30. That's when I am.
Whoa, that is cool.
That was really unexpected and cool, last minute kind of thing that just kind of happened. But there's other videos. I'm here every day, all the time. And I'm on Patreon here in a little bit. That's it. Oh wait, there are 2 Omnis with black. There are 2 Black Widow Modern Omnis, Volume 1s.
I'm on it right now, and I'm not seeing that, but I do believe you. I think if there's any minor data issues like that, like we'll catch the repeated stuff in the cleanup.
And make sure if you're
right now, and it seems fine.
Yeah. And please, 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 if you catch something like a mistake, leave it because I'm about to end the stream. Leave it in the description of the video or in the comment section of the video. That way we know what to look for and we can edit. So he's saying that there's 2 Black Widows.
Peter said he didn't find it though.
Let me do a search really quick too. Just while I'm here and I got this up. Then I'm calling it a day. Come on, baby. Okay. So it looks like, where's the other one?
So I think what you could be experiencing here is sometimes when you Control F on pages like this, there's kind of like hidden text that is not actually showed, but the find is catching it. So if you were to type Black Widow Modern on Control F, it says that there are 2 of them on the page, but then if you actually scroll down the page, you will only see one Black Widow Modern that's highlighted. So we appreciate any mistakes you catch. We will correct them in the future, and we will work it out in the data in the background. So I'm sure there is at least one critical error on this list. There's just got to be. Feel free to leave it in a comment here on the video. Feel free to leave it in a comment in that open field where you get to name your favorite books, and we'll make sure that everything that is a mistake gets worked out in the background when we tally the votes.
And one last time, yeah, leave it in the comments, and I'll keep an eye on the comments, and I'll get with Peter and everybody that helped put this together. We would not be here without you all. This has been a blast. Thank you so much, and thank you for keeping it civil, and thank you for all the praises for the hard work. I'm glad that it looks like, yeah, we did something. It was something amazing, and yeah, thank you all. I'm out of here. Have a wonderful weekend, whatever's left of it, or Monday if you're from another country. Goodbye, everybody. I'm out of here. We are out of here.